spiked out. I could trip a referee. Tell by my attitude that I most definitely from.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another This Week in Startups. It's episode number 35. Can you believe we've been doing this for 35 weeks? Tyler, does it feel like 35 weeks? We're just getting warmed up, absolutely. Wow, what a show last night.
Yes.
Pretty amazing. We had the first Open Angel Forum last night. As you guys know, a couple of months ago, we started the jihad against the Keiretsu Forum and other forums which were charging entrepreneurs unbelievably thousands of dollars in order to present to angels. We called BS on that. They called BS on us. The whole thing ensued. They took the bait. Huge mistake.
Yes.
Just as an entrepreneur, if somebody fights with you and they have absolutely no ground and nobody knows who they are and they're not even in your space, do not engage them. If you fight up, that's good, right?
Right.
So Keiretsu Forum was the most established angel forum in the world. 20 cities, oh my God, they're the only people who can do it in the world. They're geniuses. It's the only option in town. We fight up, we throw a rock, boom, we hit the giant in the head. Sure enough, they start complaining and whining. They give interviews to everybody. They call my venture capitalists and threaten to sue me. All they do is enable us.
That was rather telling as well. As soon as the guy who you're attacking, their first reaction was to sue you and anyone else related with you and stop this. I think it exposes that there must be a little bit of fear
And
there.
then things got interesting. There was a disturbance in the force. This looks actually particularly good on the black background. And so then Tyler, Sith Lord Tyler and I, Darth Calacanis, we decided that we would go visit them. And we launched the Open Angel Forum almost as a goof, like we could do this.
Right.
It was sort of a joke. You and I just said, like, so we put up a Google Doc.
Right. Well, they took the position, it's so hard, you have no idea, this takes so much time.
So, like, that's why we charge people
like,
$6,000.
Please, do this in our spare time.
Exactly. We said, basically, Tyler and I laughed. We said, we do TechCrunch 50, 1,000 applicants.
Right.
You know, we go
Right.
through 1,000 applicants.
Right.
We, put 50 on stage in 2 days. I mean, this can't possibly be that difficult.
Right.
Long story short, 110 applications the first time. We put up a Google Doc.
Yep.
People fill out a Google spreadsheet.
Yep.
Incredible companies.
Yep.
We meet 2 weeks ago with 20 of them. Boil it down to 5 incredible companies who we're going to have a bonus episode right after this one. So if you stick around at 3 o'clock, we're doing a bonus episode with 4 of the 5. 4 of the 5 are going to be here, and you can actually see who presented last night and what they thought of it. 20 angel investors show up, including the investors in Google, Twitter, Facebook. You might have heard of some of the companies. Chris Sacca, Ron Conway. I mean, these are the greatest angels in the world. These are the guys who have never been to a Keiretsu Forum. They would never go. It's too low rent for them. And they fly in to come do it in LA here. Massive success.
Yeah.
Insane.
Yeah.
You know what else is a massive success?
What's that?
Bing. And I would like to thank our sponsor. That's a pretty good segue, right?
Oh, God.
Bing is our sponsor. Everybody knows that. This show has been doing fabulously and getting incredible amounts of downloads. And Bing, I do my Open Angel Forum search here, and Bing lets you save a bunch of clicks, because when you go look at this, you get to see the preview, and they're building market share. And you saw the videos that I showed last time that you can actually, and see here, before I go click, I can actually see what's on the Open Angel Forum page. I get a little bit of a larger excerpt.
Brilliant.
Google doesn't have that feature. And,
They probably will.
Well, I mean, listen, this is the interesting thing.
No, but they're making Google advance.
Exactly.
In ways that they knew they could, but they didn't want to. No one was forcing them to, and now they got to up their game.
You know, Bing called and said, we want to sponsor the show. And I said, OK, that's fine. And people said, oh, my God, how could you have Bing sponsor? I said, listen, they're a great, Microsoft's a great company, and they're doing something great in search, which is kicking Google in the behind and saying, let's try to innovate in search. Yeah. And they're doing lots of innovative stuff. So thank you to Bing for sponsoring the show. Also, thank you to DNA Mail. DNA Mail, everybody loves DNA Mail. If you're a startup, you shouldn't be hosting your own stuff. You should just put it on a cloud. Put it in the cloud, and you're all done. And they do that for a very affordable price. WebSpy, another great company. We had Jack on the show. He did a great job from Australia. And they monitor all the activity. They're a total log analysis solution for a startup or even bigger companies, or at home now they have the NoHo product, the SoHo. What do you call it when it's a home office? SoHo? Small office, home office? And those guys are doing a great job. And Power VPS, which is cloud computing, virtual private hosting, and that's $59 a month. Twist viewers get 25% off for life with the discount code TWIST. And it is your giri. That's Japanese for?
Duty.
Your duty. It is your giri. Look it up on Wikipedia. G-I-R-I. Your giri. It is your duty as a viewer of the show to thank the sponsors on Twitter. They love that. So thank the sponsors, Bing, DNA, Mail, WebSpy, and PowerVPS. And I am going to, during the show, give a Nexus One phone, the Google phone, to somebody who thanks the sponsors. So if you thank them during the show, we'll give you Nexus One. Somebody, not all 1,000 people who do it.
Right.
Anyway, this is going to be a great show. We've got an amazing guest on the show. Brad Feld is one of my oldest friends in the internet industry. I met him probably in 95 or 1996 when I was 24 or 25 years old in New York, Silicon Alley. Hadn't even started the Silicon Alley Reporter yet and was a consultant to a group called Acme Ventures, which later became known as Flatiron Partners, which Brad was involved in. And they did companies like Cosmo and GeoCities, which was originally called Beverly Hills Internet. And anyway, he's been investing for a really long time. He's a blogger. You read his blog, Feld Thoughts. He is an angel investor. He's invested in over 300 companies. Welcome to the program, Brad.
Thanks for having me, Jason.
It's a pleasure. Finally, we got you to leave Colorado. And then you have a place in Alaska, too, right?
I have a place in Homer.
So you're basically in either Alaska or Colorado.
Actually, I'm all over the place.
Okay.
So, we have a couple of investments even in LA. So it's mostly just, that LA is so big.
Right.
That, you can't find yourself your way around.
In Alaska, I see these beautiful pictures. Are you like out in like the boondocks somewhere?
Yeah, I have a place in Homer, which is, if you think of Alaska as sort of this big thing, and this is Canada.
Yeah.
And these are the little islands that come down. Where my thumbs touch is where Homer is, right on the ocean.
Oh, wow.
And it's my wife, until she was 8, lived nearby. We don't have any family there, so we just go there and escape for a month a year in July. And with the miracle of modern technology, nobody knows where I am, so I can hang out up there and do my work and
absolutely
have a different experience.
And they actually have the internet up there?
They do. In fact, the internet up there is so good that when we bought a house there, 2001, 2002, and when I went to get broadband to my house, I called up the local ACS, which is the local phone affiliate, and I said, hey, can I get a broadband thingy, whatever? And they said, yeah, George will be up tomorrow.
Wow.
And George came up tomorrow, and George was like a 75-year-old guy who had been, doing telephones in Homer for his whole life. He says, yeah, I remember when they built this house, the orange pair and the white pair switched or something. It's like one of those, it's like, oh, geez. And, within 24 hours, I had DSL at my house in Homer, compared to, for example, in Colorado, where, it took, at the same time, I got a T1 line to my house in the mountains, and it took almost a year to get it run. So it's good.
Let's talk a little bit about the angel space. You are an angel for a decade or more, maybe 15 years now.
Yep.
And I've just started doing some angel investing, and we both, synchronicity, had discussed this problem with payola for angel things. How did that first come on your radar?
Well, so I've had 2 chunks of time where I've primarily been an angel investor, 94 to 96, shortly after I sold my first company, and then 2006, 2007. Between the time that we stopped investing in new companies at Mobius and I raised the newest fund that I'm part of, Foundry Group. And in those periods of time, and sort of through the other, I've always sort of intersected with organized angel groups that have ebbed and flowed. So I've always been, as an angel investor, pretty deliberate on my own, have seen a few good angel groups, but I've seen a lot that end up being more like cocktail parties than actually structured investment activities. So, I've always shied away from that and always been pretty focused on real angel activity, where the goal of an angel investor should be to help the entrepreneurs get their businesses up and going. It's very simple.
Crazy concept.
The other thing which I've seen over the years, both as an angel investor and as a venture investor, is sort of this plethora of people and organizations who view the entrepreneur as their potential customer. Right. So they try to create businesses around the notion of providing services to entrepreneurs.
Right.
And some people do that in a way that's very constructive and helpful. Plenty of law firms that do work, for early stage companies, firms like Cooley Godward, who I've worked with for a very long time, do things very inexpensively for early stage companies, with the idea that as those companies grow and succeed, that'll grow into.
So those service providers provide value.
They're
necessary.
That's a good thing. But on the other side, there's just this endless number of people who are reaching into an entrepreneur's pocket to try to build a business. And the stupid thing about it is entrepreneurs have no money. why would you ask the people that have no money?
Yeah, it's like these are the people who are trying to build something, and you're trying to get
crazy.
Yeah.
So I've always had this philosophy that I react to, and then there's a New York Times article about 6 months ago that talked about this practice of essentially pay to pitch, where you'd have angel groups that were organized, and they charge the entrepreneurs different amounts of money to come in and pitch to the angels. In addition, there were a couple of angel groups in Colorado. One, in the sort of 2000-ish time period, where I think at one point it probably had about 300 angels in it, and maybe 5 of them had made an investment in the last 24 months.
Right. So they pack in the room with service providers, retired people, people who want free food.
People that want free food, or people that just want to hang out with other people.
It was basically not angels, it was a tech meetup.
That's right, which is totally great. If it's a tech meetup, call it a tech meetup and do
not
that.
An angel group.
That's right. So when this New York Times article came out, I wrote a blog post, something like, angel group practices that make me vomit was, I think, the post. We just look it up on Bing. It's probably
right on Bing.
It's probably number 27 on Bing.
I'll Bing it. Yeah.
But in any event, I got a ton of response to that. Sort of violent response, same kind of thing. Some people very much like this, yes, I agree, this sucks, and other people sort of defending it and trying to argue, well, but it costs money to do this.
You have to vet the investments. How else would you
have to help them, and so we're helping them do it better. Da, da, da. And so I had a very negative reaction to it. One of my close friends, David Cohen, who founded TechStars in Boulder, I was one of the founders with him in 2006. Part of the reason he started TechStars was because he had started to make angel investments. He made a couple, and he really didn't like the dynamics. He didn't like the sort of, the extended group of angels in the angel group that he was part of which almost nobody invested. He also didn't like this idea that he was investing, but then having sort of no interaction, no engagement, no relationship with the entrepreneurs and with the other angel investors. And so, part of the experience that we've had with TechStars is not just the value of an angel investment, but the value of mentors and the value of successful entrepreneurs helping first-time entrepreneurs get past those first couple of stages, which I've always, as an individual investor, viewed was my responsibility. And some entrepreneurs don't want that, and other entrepreneurs soak it up, and I tend to invest in the ones that want it.
Yes, of course.
And so, sort of in the swirling around of all this, you sort of hit on the thing about the same time.
Yeah, it came on my radar, and I was like, wow, this is BS. I'm going to write something about that. And then all of a sudden, this whole movement starts
sort of blew up. So and I've had a lot of conversations. You have a lot of respect for people who are real angel investors, even if they're part of these groups. And I think the message that I tried to get across to the people that I've talked to is that it's not necessarily, the dynamics themselves aren't bad. The justification is what doesn't make sense. And the argument that, well, there is no venture capital seed investing is just false. Or the idea that there are no angel investors that are making early stage investments is false. Or the idea that, entrepreneurs don't have access to these kind of investors is false, right? I mean, it's that there's a quality curve, and crappy ideas and crappy entrepreneurs, where I'm defining crappy subjectively, people who aren't willing to go out and hustle. Right. When I first met you, you defined hustler, right? You weren't going to let anybody slow you down.
No.
But you hadn't had any success.
No.
And,
Zero.
What you did was you just walked through walls. That's the kind of thing that an angel investor is getting excited about versus your presentation is pretty and sort of your market sizing document, whatever.
You want to invest in somebody who you think is going to never say die, and when there's a wall, they're going to knock it down, hop over it, go around it, whatever it is. So now TechStars has become a juggernaut. This has become like the Y Combinator of the Southwest. Well,
we've done 39 investments. We have a program in Boulder in the summer, a program in Boston in the spring, which we just closed our applications for. And we just announced recently that we're doing a program in Seattle in the fall. So we'll have 3 programs a year.
Amazing.
So about 30 companies going through the program. And part of, with TechStars, what we've tried to do, and it's very focused on software, internet, early stage. That's the typical type of entrepreneur and company. But we're very focused in those geographies of trying to integrate the entrepreneurial community.
Right.
So when I lived in Boston from 83 to 95, and when I was in Boston in the early 90s, there was a very, and was starting to do my angel investing activities, a very vibrant entrepreneurial community. There are plenty of people that had made a lot of money. They were still active as entrepreneurs. There was a ton of software internet activity going on, and everybody sort of up and down the chain participated. So you had lots of first-time entrepreneurs coming out of the system from MIT or from Harvard or wherever, BU. You had lots of people who were, like me, I was in my late 20s, who was writing, $25,000, $50,000, $100,000 checks to these companies. Right. And then you sort of keep working your way up the curve. And you had experienced entrepreneurs who had 2, 3, 4 successes and some failures who were coming back in. A good example is a guy, Sean O'Sullivan, who was the founder of MapInfo at RPI when he was in his early 20s, and it went public, and he made a lot of money, and then he started a couple of companies and angel funded a bunch of companies.
This sort of is the process of building an ecosystem.
Absolutely.
So now this is
very vibrant. The Boston dynamic was interesting, though, right? Because in Boston, somewhere in the late 90s, that all stalled.
Yeah.
And I remember I left in 95. There was no correlation between the stall and me leaving.
Right.
But there was a point in time where Boston was probably ahead of the Valley in terms of,
certainly
internet.
In terms of the amount of venture capital there, it was second only to the Valley, and the amount of brain share between MIT and Harvard and BU and tons of intelligent young people. But it did drop off.
Something happened, and so having been in Boulder from 95 forward, I saw a couple of waves in Boulder. And when I moved to Boulder in 95, there was a legacy of entrepreneurship in Boulder. There were a bunch of storage companies that came out of Boulder. There was a lot of telecom in Denver. There were plenty of very smart technical people. Boulder specifically as a city has the highest per capita population of computer scientists and the highest per capita population of PhDs, partly because of the national labs that are there, partly because of the university, partly because of just the community.
Right.
Boulder's also a very individualistic community,
sure,
right?
Yeah.
It's total hippie town.
Yep.
Going back, and a lot of the natural foods industry came from Boulder. And if you sort of look at it, the joke I like to make is that the hippies that were going across the country ran out of gas, in Boulder, and it was a pretty place.
Yep,
We'll stay here. And we can cue the current medical marijuana jokes as we see the proliferation of those businesses growing everywhere in Boulder right now, so to speak.
Legal in California. They just didn't do a vote, Tyler.
It's going back and forth.
But they did a vote this week in California.
Well, it's legal.
It was like 4-3, and they're like, yeah, it's legal. And I was like, wait a second. Hello? What?
Yeah, except for the state gets to enforce federal laws if they want. So
if they want,
it's
right.
legal,
it's
except unless they wanted to.
Yeah.
It's the same as it was before.
They're basically saying, this is what I heard, Obama doesn't want to do it in the first term because it would screw up his second term potentially, but in the second term, it's on.
It'll be an interesting second term.
And it would just be like...
That would be a helpful platform probably for him to run on in terms of a certain demographic of the vote.
Listen, weed and gambling, let's do it, tax it like crazy, regulate it like crazy, let's balance the budget. Let's build better schools. I'm fine. It's going on anyway. Anyway.
So that's not a critical part of the TechStars program, but
no.
These are young people, so who knows?
So there could be some stuff going on. They could be playing poker and smoking weed.
But what I can guarantee you, there's plenty of poker. The premise behind TechStars, sort of that emerged in 2005, 2006, is that Boulder as an entrepreneurial community had a real renaissance post-bubble. So, in 95 to 2001, there were plenty of successes. People made 10, 15, 20 million dollars. So all of a sudden, you had some younger entrepreneurs who had some money. You then had a bunch of people who had success have failures sort of through the bubble. So you have this cycle where you build some muscle, right? It's one thing to be successful.
These guys are becoming gladiators.
Yeah, you get run over by a truck, you get back up.
Yep.
And then by about 2003, as everybody starts to kind of wander back in, you've got a bunch of people sort of in the mid to late 20s to early 40s, mid 40s, that have had successes and failures, that are still in the game, that love the community they're in. And all of a sudden, there's an opportunity to start to organize across that whole spectrum and get all of those people working together. So the ingredient that's needed in an entrepreneurial community to make it perpetuate is new people coming into the entrepreneurial community.
Yeah.
And in Boulder, we only have 150,000 people in Boulder, so it's not a growing population. It's for a variety of reasons, including the fact that the city doesn't want it to expand.
Right.
So we decided, screw it, we'll just import people.
Right. Perfect.
And the original TechStars program, I think only maybe 1 or 2 of the 10 original teams were from Boulder. All the rest of them were from around the world, or mostly around the country, a few around the world. As part of that dynamic, we had great success the first year. As part of that dynamic, we started thinking about, well, is this a Boulder thing, or is this something that happens in other entrepreneurial communities? And what are some other entrepreneurial communities that have a lot of the natural resources that we're talking about, but are fragmented? And, I had a lot of experience with Boston. I knew Boston well. We had lots of friends in Boston. And Bill Warner, who was the founder of a company called Avid, which anybody that does anything with video knows Avid. Bill created the first Avid. He's a successful Boston entrepreneur, and he was the kind of entrepreneur that when I was a young entrepreneur in my early 20s, I wanted to know Bill.
Right.
And I would go to a talk of Bill's, and
yeah, sure, you were a fan.
I was a Bill Warner fanboy, and he got to know TechStars through an angel investment he made in one of the TechStars companies in Boulder, and he said, we got to have this in Boston. And the we got to have this in Boston was totally a function of him coming to Boulder, seeing how this entrepreneurial ecosystem had started to become integrated, and saying, gosh, if we could just put something here to work on, that would do it. The last point I'll make on it is that part of the magic of it is it's only for 90 days. So if you ran programs like this all year long in the same community, you'd wear people out.
Right.
So TechStars in Boulder in the summertime is an event. Everybody gears up for it. The new class comes. There's a bunch of things around it.
Dinners,
people put a lot of energy into
events.
it. The mentors, spend up their time. And then, through the fall, the companies get funded and established, and people still stay engaged, but the level of intensity isn't there again till the next summer. And so that sort of rhythm, we believe, works in any community. So it's not that TechStars is the heart of the entrepreneurial activity. It's a very tangible thing for people to work on. And
it's like a catalyst. It's like you give it a good jump start, and half of the people wind up doing something great. Man, mission accomplished.
But think about the level of integration and between the new people in the community and everybody else. And we'll relate it back to the angel stuff in a sec. The other thing is, you and I, we have fun hanging out, going, you think about entrepreneurial events, you go to only so many cocktail parties. You got a kid, you want to spend time with your wife, you got a business, you got other things you're doing. The 9th award ceremony for entrepreneurship that you get invited to, you're like,
I'm done.
Nothing's happening here. Like I'm just going to show up and have a couple of drinks and be bored for 2 hours. And what you want is you want to work on something.
Right.
And so the fun of these types of programs like TechStars is that as an experienced entrepreneur, you get to help these first-time entrepreneurs actually
build
their
something.
Company.
Yeah.
And that's the real turn on. In addition, if you and I haven't worked on something for 6 or 7 years, and we happen to both be mentors for a particular company, all of a sudden we're working on a project together.
Yep.
And that's much more fun than let's just hang out and whatever, send email,
listen
how you doing, whatever.
Whoever speak on the stage at the D conference.
So that's part of, that's part of, again, when you tie it back to the Open Angel Forum, that's part of the thing that sort of, in watching David and working with David and being David's partner in TechStars, watching this evolve, the dynamics around it were so fascinating because I got to watch somebody who had been a successful entrepreneur and then had a failure and then had a third company that was modestly successful, who had started to make angel investments, sort of find his way and really, catch fire on what was exciting.
It's amazing what he's done.
And then the network of angel investors who have invested in TechStars-related companies. You mentioned Chris Sacca, who's a great example, Jeff Clavier, Dave McClure.
These are the power angels.
People that, from not in California, but also other places in the country. Will Herman, who's a Boston angel, it's been very successful, that's invested in a number of the companies. The thing that you start to see is that you build community around the investing activity in support of the entrepreneurs rather than sort of the other way around, which is that you've got a bunch of people who are doing some organized activity in the entrepreneurs of the entertainment.
Right.
And that's what, when you started sort of railing about the Open Angel Forum construct was so powerful because it was exactly on that same theme.
Right.
Which is, let's take the entrepreneur, let's celebrate the entrepreneur.
Right.
Let's give the entrepreneur real resources to help them get going.
Right.
And we can't do it for every single entrepreneur. We don't do it for every kind of entrepreneur.
Right.
You can't.
It's not your God-given right to come, to be accepted. No. Not every,
You got to earn it. You got to fight your way in. It's competitive. There's a constrained amount.
But if you get it, it's going to be a jump start.
Accelerates
this could take
your
5 years out of your career.
Exactly.
So we could make a special announcement at this point in the program. We have a special announcement infographic, I think, in the. If we wanted to do a special announcement, we could do that. We press a button. Crack me up. We can do the 20th Century Fox theme. I love that. It's like a professional show. We have like themes and all kinds of stuff.
This is a very serious studio that you got here.
Absolutely, very serious. Many cameras and everything. So big announcement. Very happy to report that the second Open Angel Forum will take place in Colorado.
Yep.
And that you and Dave Cohen of TechStars are going to host it. Amazing. A little golf clap for that, huh? Very nice. A little golf clap. So that's fantastic. We're going to do it in February, and then we'll put all the information online. But this will be the second one. Yep. We'll do it 3-4 times a year, and then there'll be and I'll fly out for the first one, and I'll try to get to maybe 2 a year. And then we're going to do it in San Francisco and some other cities, all with the highest quality people, all with maybe, 12? We think 12 angel investors is the right number. We had 20 last night. I don't think it can get much bigger than that, but just keep it nice and high end, and nobody in the room who's not an angel investor.
He made me think of something interesting, which is there's 2 types of investor angel types, and the ones that were there last night were the ones who are what he's referring to, get really excited and passionate about seeing a young company do something because they're doers themselves, and they get inspired again, remembering when they were doing their company, and the chance to work as opposed to the angel investor types that show up and perceive it as an alternative to shorting the NASDAQ or something, or some higher risk, but just some portfolio kind of thing that they're doing. They get engaged and
the value added.
Right.
That's a great insight, Tyler.
I think it's an important point. The other.
Every time Tyler has an insight, that jingle plays.
You get a gold star too. Is that good?
Absolutely. Well, show it again. I want to show. My mom and dad are in the studio, so show the insights from Tyler jingle one more time. If you don't mind. Mom, I'm showing my mom and dad. Can you leave the graphic up for a second? I just want to show my mom what that is actually. That is Tyler and I on the Sydney Bay Bridge, and you can press it one more time. Yeah. And so that's when you go on the Sydney Bay Bridge, and that's the Opera House there. And behind the light bulb is my wife, but we don't put her picture out there because we don't like to have the stalkers, whatever. But we're wearing headsets and these goofy hats, and they're like, you have to take a picture. So we decided we'd make it look as goofy as possible, and so we look like we're on the special ed bus tour of the Bay Bridge. But you climb the Bay Bridge in Australia, and so that's Tyler's insights there. Let's take a call. Let's try to help an entrepreneur. Can we send the first caller through? What is the graphics budget on this program? We have too many graphics now. Okay, so we have our first caller who is calling in from the 917, a number I recognize. That is the cell phone area code of NYC. Ryan, where are you calling from?
I am calling from NYC. I'm calling from Brooklyn.
Brooklyn in the house. Where in Brooklyn?
Prospect Heights.
Okay, respect. I'm from Bay Ridge originally, and Brooklyn, we go hard.
That's right.
So tell me, Ryan, you're here. You've got Brad Feld, who's invested in over 300 companies, and myself, who's invested over 3 companies, and ran a couple of them. You have a question for us on Ask Jason.
Well, I have a few questions.
Let's start with one.
Okay, so should I get some background?
Sure. Background? Short background and a question.
Important.
Yeah.
Important. So I'm an architect, and my partner is also an architect, and we've found some pain points in our industry, and we're trying to solve them with a web application, a website, basically. And since we don't have a technical background, meaning we're not programmers, we're not computer science majors, we were wondering if we needed a CTO or if we can just outsource and find a development shop and go to them. Okay. And we're also wondering how that would affect our ability to get funding.
Yeah. So this is a great question. I'll summarize your question. Tell me if I've got it right. Sure. You have great domain expertise in architecture. You are 2 architects. You would like to make tools, technology for architects. However, you're not technical. You're not programmers. Did I summarize correctly? Correct. And you would like to know what do you do now? Because you have great domain experience. I would assume you think you know what architects want, what the technological opportunities are, but you do not have the ability to build it yourself. So will investors be interested in somebody with domain expertise without technical expertise? I'm going to defer to Brad on this one. Brad, if you heard a pitch from somebody who's like, hey, we're architects and we have an idea, and here's the product that needs to be made, but we don't have anybody to make it, is that just a huge red flag for you? You sort of like come back when you have a technologist on your team?
Yeah, well, the first thing I'd encourage you to do is strongly go find a technical co-founder. So outsourcing the product build, while it can be successful, the probability of it being successful is very low relative to getting a third partner into the mix early on that believes in you guys, that can work with you guys, that can be the technical lead for your business. The domain expertise is hugely important whenever you're going after a vertical market like you're talking about. But I think you see so many times the lack of the right mixture on that entrepreneurial team.
Right.
And if you rely on somebody who's not, living the creation of the business the same way you are, 20 hours a day, this is the only thing they're thinking about.
Right.
This is what they're all
Properly
about.
incented.
Properly incented, big equity in the company, and a real partner with you.
Yeah.
The chance of you getting the product you want is lower. And the chance of it really being something where, the number of stories where, you outsourced it to somebody and you don't know how to manage the technical build, so you kind of get smoked by that, outsourcing organization.
It's basically not going to work. It's a huge red flag. He would never invest in it, and I would agree with him. That being said, let me give just a couple of pieces of advice there, and I want to get a follow-up question to Brad, which is, so you have to get a technical partner in there. However, I wonder, Brad, have you ever invested in people who do not have domain expertise in a market, but are incredible technologists and have built really great products for that vertical and are getting traction?
Yes, absolutely.
So
the opposite is true.
The opposite is true.
Yeah.
They would rather have technical people who can build great products and listen to the customer rather than just have the customers. And what this boils down to is ideas are easy, execution is hard. You guys have ideas, you don't have the ability to execute. So I get these calls all the time. I have an idea, Jason. I want to make this iPhone app. I'm a doctor. I'm a lawyer. You got to invest in this company. It's the greatest thing ever. And I say, well, who's going to build it? And they say, oh, we'll get somebody to build it. I'm like, well, why wouldn't I invest in that guy or that girl, And so you have to go find a technical advisor. So then your next question is, or the next question you should ask is, how do I find a technical advisor?
How do I do that? Well,
yes. Is that your question?
Well, that is my next question, because I've been shopping it around in New York, and we even pitched to the New York PHP community, and people are interested. But if you're talking to technologists in New York City right now, pre-funding, it's like they don't want to hear it. And we're also very passionate about this space. It's about sustainability, and we want to find somebody who's also interested, and that's another challenge because, to be honest, most technologists we run into, they don't even know what we're talking about. So any advice on how to overcome that?
Well, the first thing I would do looking for a technical advisor, or a CTO, or a technical founder, is I would go to LinkedIn, and I would look for people who have recently been at a company that's been sold, or recently left a company, like somebody maybe an ex-Googler, ex-Yahoo, ex-Microsoft person who's maybe made a little bit of money, and now they're like, hey, I would like to do a startup thing. You could even post it on Craigslist. We're technical founders. You can go to Hacker News, which is the Y Combinator news site. You're going to have to basically hustle to find a technical co-founder, and that's your first test as an entrepreneur. If you can't find a technical co-founder, you're not going to be able to manage some guys in Bangalore, making your site, or Eastern Russia. Brad, you have thoughts?
Yeah, I agree. I think it's one of the first challenges when you're putting together a business is getting the right people around the table. And it's always really easy to sort of find your friend and with a friend or two friends say, let's go start a business. But the characteristics and skill sets don't necessarily give you what you need to get off and running. So finding that technical co-founder, the best chance of you finding them is going to be somebody who's 1 or 2 degrees of separation from you. So somebody that is a friend of a friend, or somebody that's kind of tangentially to your network, versus sort of the random overtures. But you need to do both. You need to go after both and recognize that the first person that says, yes, I'm interested in working with you, might actually be a crappy technical founder. So some of it is you have to actually really view it as the cliche is it's a marriage when you have a partnership like this. In the same way that you've got to go find, your spouse or your partner, that those dynamics play out. You're really going to have to be working and living with this person. But, Jason said, you got to be scrappy and you got to go do it. Some of it is the test of getting a company started. Yeah. And
are you willing to pull the trigger? Yeah.
Well, actually, I've already done some of what Jason, because I've heard Jason talk about this with some other on some other Twist episodes, and I actually went in and looked for some ex-Price Grabber people and some ex-Shopzilla people. I searched LinkedIn. I actually have a technical advisor who could help, but his company just got sold a few months ago, and so he's in the process of migrating data from one package to another or something like that. So, but ideally, I would like him to come on board, and he's well experienced, CTO level at a multi-million-dollar company, 20 years plus experience. So, but I have to wait until he he finishes his job and
Well, but part of him finishing his job is going to be his desire to work with you. So some of it is you laying siege to him. If he's the guy you want, go get him. And if he says, "Look, I can spend a little time with you in the next 3 months because I got to finish this other thing, but I'm ready to commit to do it," that's different than him saying, "Call me in a year," because
Listen,
call me in a year basically says I'm not interested. But if you can stay after it.
Let me ask you a question, Ryan.
Sure.
Did Biggie wait till he had a record contract to rap?
No, Jason.
He just broke it down. He did it on the street
what I'm
corner.
doing.
He did it in the club. You don't need to get a record label. Just get out there, and you got to find the person. And no excuses is the bottom line.
None.
You'll find them.
None whatsoever. I mean, we're actually building a prototype right now.
That's good.
In India, we're actually scouting some teams in New York to see if we can get a better connection, because rather person in we can talk to face who gets us or understands us to a certain extent, and we can at least get the product on the market, and then we can always bring on a CTO later on and
I'll give you
really start some things.
Let me give you another piece of advice in this regard. When I started the first one of my first companies, the magazine company, I didn't know anything about PageMaker, which was the Quirk Express at that time, the layout thing. I didn't know anything about printing. I knew nothing. So what I did was I basically tried to learn every single job function myself, got up to like 60% of like a good at it, 70% good at it, and then I found somebody because I kept trying to figure out how do you do PageMaker, and I looked for PageMaker people to ask questions to, and then finally I would hire one. Then I would go into sales. I would do sales poorly for, and do like 50% or 60% of what a salesperson could do, and then finally find somebody who could do sales. Then when I got those people into the company, they couldn't BS me because I knew 60 or 70% of what their job was. I was 60, 70% of an HTML designer, 60, 70% of a writer at that time, 60, 70% of an editor at that time, 60, 70% of a fact checker. So actually what you're doing in terms of doing the mock-ups, doing the design, maybe even doing some light HTML, maybe even learning how the iPhone app, at least you do that stuff. When the technical person comes along, they're going to go, oh, let me handle that, but at least you can have a really intelligent conversation with them, like what the iPhone is capable of doing and how to use the API.
Exactly.
So,
Ryan, let me give you an example like that. One of the TechStars companies from Boulder in 2009 is a company called Everlater. And the two co-founders of Everlater, Nate and Natty, neither of them knew how to program. They were both on Wall Street in some sort of investment banking role, associate roles or whatever. And they decided they hated what they were doing and they wanted to create a company. They loved to travel. They wanted to create a new type of travel website because none of the travel websites were what they wanted. And so the two of them came up with the idea, and then they learned how to program.
Yeah.
And actually wrote the first version, which probably the very first couple of iterations were 10% or 20.
Yeah.
I mean,
they were pretty bad.
They weren't pretty, but they were good enough so that they could start to entice other people in, and they ultimately, attracted a third partner who is a very strong developer, and that allowed them to sort of start to grow from there. So, one of the things I'd offer you if you want, my email address is brad@feld.com. Just send me an email and I'll hook you up with Nate and Natty. I'm sure they'd be happy to talk to you about sort of how they went from something that they knew nothing about programming to a point where they were really attracting other people to them.
Ryan, what's your Twitter?
Appreciate that,
What's your Twitter account, Ryan? You have a Twitter account?
Why not green? Why not green?
Why not green? So twitter.com/whynotgreen. If you are a listener to the show, whether you're listening live or on the podcast or on YouTube, Why Not Green? It is your Geary. It is your obligation to follow Why Not Green. It is your entrepreneurial Geary. Your duty, and you will go follow them right now like I will. And
You're already following me, Jason.
yeah, Why Not Green? WHYNOTGREN. Okay. Good job on the show.
Thank you.
We will follow you. If anybody knows anybody who's into architecture or green stuff and wants to be their co-founder, please do contact them.
Please send them my way.
All right.
Thank you.
We will talk to you in a couple of weeks and see how you're doing.
All right, great. Thank you, Jason.
Get people call back in a couple weeks later. It's
Yeah,
becoming
great.
like a whole thing.
great.
All right, so now the next part of the program is Jason's Shark Tank. You ever see this TV show Shark Tank? You know what I'm referring to.
I know the show. I saw 1 or 2 episodes.
Terrible. It's terrible. On this show, well, here's the intro. TV show from television's NBC or ABC or somebody put it. And as you can see, I am one of the judges on the show. No, I am not. Mark Burnett's people call me.
And you ran screaming from the building?
No, they call me. Oh, Jason, we love what you do. Blah blah blah. We want you involved in the program. Blah blah blah. ABC. We want to go to meetings. They call back again. Oh my God! I put them in touch with Tyler. We'll set something up, and then what they do? They disappear. They never call back. Very professional, Mark Burnett. Anyway, I'm showing Mark Burnett how to do a proper television show here with Jason Shark Tank, which is people will pitch us for 60 seconds, and then we'll tell them if we would invest in it or not and why and how, all that kind of stuff. Unlike the Shark Tank where they try to beat up and destroy the entrepreneurs, we're going to do what investors or angel investors or fellow entrepreneurs would do, which is try to build them up and actually help them. Do we have the Shark Tank caller? Okay. Hello, Tyler. Hello? Okay. Technical difficulties. There we go. I've got a call. It's ringing. Speakerphone. Tyler. Tyler, you there?
Hit the speaker again.
Oh, speaker again. Hello, Tyler.
Yes.
Whoa, hello. Okay? We got you. Okay, so this is Tyler.
Yes, it is.
You're calling from the 310, which I recognize as Los Angeles.
Yes, it is.
Okay.
To Monica.
Yes. You've been listening to the program for a while, or is this your first episode?
I have. I've been watching for quite some time. I think maybe the first one I tuned in was around, I think it was the Mark Sister episode.
And do you have a favorite episode?
I really liked that episode. I got a lot out of what he was kind of describing and talking about team building and the importance of team and, in contrast to other VCs, etc.
Good. You have a favorite segment on the program? Perhaps Tyler's Insights?
Definitely insights from Tyler.
Yeah, of course. Everybody loves those. Okay, so you know the rules of the game. You're going to have 60 seconds. You will explain. There's no pressure, aside from the fact that Brad's invested in 300 companies, and yours could be 301 or not. There's no pressure except for the fact that there are 500 people watching live, and 25,000 people will listen to this in the next month. There's no pressure there. And there's no pressure for the fact that this will be recorded forever if you do a horrible job. And for all eternity, there will be a blog post with your name on it, with your pitch and your video there. Are you ready to do it?
I am. It's 30 seconds or 60 seconds?
A full 60 seconds, but if you end early, that's always good too.
Bonus points for being shorter.
Yes.
Awesome. Fantastic.
Are you ready?
I am ready.
Okay, 3, 2, go.
All right. Thanks, Jason. So the problem Mingly is trying to solve is that vital follow-up opportunities with your contacts are often missed in today's avalanche of emails and tweets and other social network updates. So Mingly's solution is an online personal assistant / to-do list that actively reminds you to reach out to your highest priority connections and gives you the relevant reasons to do so, kind of by pushing you information like Google Alerts that are of interest to your contacts. As a result, you're building more meaningful relationships and creating social capital. So if anyone's familiar with books like Dave Carnegie's book as well as Keith Ferrazzi's Never Eat Alone, it's critical to be constantly pinging contacts and connections and connecting with them personally. So that's basically the overview of Mingly.
Okay, so you did it very quickly. There were things in there that I was nodding my head with. The only thing I didn't get out of it exactly, because I get the sense that this is some kind of a plug-in for Outlook or a web-based service that helps me keep track of the people I've sent email to and sort of do relationship building, but you didn't get to how it manifests itself. So how does it manifest itself?
Okay, so Mingly is a kind of like a to-do list, a dashboard that is also extended through a widget, which will have some sort of Gmail overlay and also potentially a Facebook app and eventually Outlook plugin. But basically, it lives kind of self-contained in this widget as well as dashboard, and it connects to these Google contacts to monitor new contacts you make, as well as email that's been sent or received, as well as Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn.
Okay, so I will ask everybody in the chat room to rate your ability to present on a scale of 1 to 10, and I'll ask them to rate your idea on a 1 to 10. And so everybody who's in the chat room just rate pitch equals 1 score and idea equals another score. And you're getting 6 and 7s across the board, a couple of 4s. So that's pretty good for a first shot. Brad, what do you think of the pitch? If he told you this at a conference, you got your 30 seconds, would you want to hear more?
So I would be interested in hearing more because I'd ask you more questions. With one caveat, which is in recognizing that you're pitching over the telephone, you're very stiff sounding, so kind of scripted. You were careful with words. You had a couple adjectives in there that were kind of long, and I don't remember which ones they were, but kind of the idea. It didn't feel like you had internalized your thing and you were totally passionate about it. It felt more like you were trying to get a very well-defined message across. And for me, and I think for most people in that sort of first 30 seconds, having it tight is good, but having it real is equally important. I want to feel your emotion about the excitement of the idea. So that didn't feel like it was coming across to me.
That's kind of like Japanese jazz.
I think we got another T-shirt. It's kind of like Japanese jazz. It's like a wheelchair at Disneyland.
Right.
Tyler, it's kind of like Japanese jazz?
Yes.
That's a great insight.
Yes.
Wow. Somebody working the track. We lost Alex is going to work in New York. We lost the timing. So whoever is going to be doing the show going forward, this weekend I would like you to do 100 insights from Tyler. Say 5 Hail Marys as well. So explain what you mean by it's kind of like Japanese
Jazz.
jazz.
Right. Japanese
this
jazz.
Is, just so you know,
Yes.
I know that in Tyler's mind that metaphor is
means
all you need to
something.
say,
Yes.
but to the rest of us,
Yes.
we're confused.
Right.
Everybody's dumbfounded in here. So explain what you mean.
Japanese jazz. Japanese are very technical.
Yes.
And they take something and they will do it in golf in the same way. They get very masterful about the technique and the exact right way to hit the ball and the right way to hit the notes but yet Ornette Coleman and Parker and Miles Davis, all these guys.
It doesn't have soul.
Right, you got to have that real. It's you. It's coming from you and feeling that passion. And that's different than a technically good pitch. I think this was technically textbook, very good pitch, but it missed that X factor soul, which Brad was referring to.
Well, and it's an instructive example at TechStars, we do this thing that makes everybody batshit, which is that every time somebody new comes in the room, all 10 companies give their elevator pitch. So every time a new mentor shows up, every time there's a new evening event for the first couple of weeks, and it makes you it makes not the mentors. The mentors find it valuable. The entrepreneurs, for the first couple of times, you're embarrassed, you're uncomfortable, you don't have the words quite right,
you're incomprehensible,
or you forget your memorized script. And, But by about the 20 or 30th time that you're sort of extemporaneously doing it, all of a sudden you click into a totally different gear. And you no longer think about the words, you no longer think specifically about what you're saying, but instead you're really comfortable with it. And what I think from just pure pitch perspective, the more you wear your idea, the more it fits you and you're really comfortable with it, the easier it is for somebody like me to say, tell me more. Versus
you believe it.
Yeah, I want to know more about what you're thinking. I may not be in love with it yet, but I'm kind of in love with your excitement about it.
This is something I used to tell people after I did Silicon Valley Reporter magazine, which was you have to be the brand. You have to live the brand. I would wear a Silicon Valley Reporter t-shirt every day. I would drop off the magazines. You'd never see me without a stack of magazines in my hand. I would be taking pictures for the magazine. You got to live it. And so there's a little disconnect between your product and you living it. But putting that aside,
let's talk about the product.
Let's talk about the product for a second, because I am fascinated by relationship management and CRM. And I was using for a while Getting Things Done for Gmail. So I do think there's an opportunity here to make the unlimited Gmail and the unlimited communications work more effectively. How does your product work?
Okay, so the kind of the key to all of this is driving all this noise, all this avalanche of information, filtering it and then deriving it into the to-do list. So it's basically generating alerts. Like the dashboard essentially is a to-do list with alerts that have been generated either because you haven't communicated with that person over a certain period of time. It could be that I just met someone, I added them on Facebook. We automatically detect that and say, hey, you should send a follow-up. Note that this is a good contact to follow up with, because usually and I personally actually came to the problem because I'd meet great people, but just never, the follow-up didn't happen because I got busy or distracted or whatever it was. So how it works, again, is it monitors these networks, prompts you to follow up with, if it's been more than a certain period of time, as well as gives you, Google Alert type alerts on relevant information about that person. Then I should say, hey, Jason, this is an article that might be interesting about that Canon. Would you get the 70 or the
D7?
I don't know if you have a Nikon, but okay.
If you looked at Blippy, you would know.
Ah.
Yes, the D7. I got the D7. Right.
Got it. Okay.
So you I understand. So you have these alerts that look and say, hey, you haven't spoken to Jason in a while. You met him at this party 6 months ago. He just bought a D7 camera. He just put up these pictures of his kids. It's a good idea. It's going to be a lot in the execution. I think you're going to scare people by saying to-do list, because that is something that people have been working on since 1983 or 84 with Sidekick on Windows, and it's never really become a business, to-do lists. That's like a feature of a product. So, and there was also a company called Zobni that was at TechCrunch 40 that did email analysis and tried to do this, like these are the people you get emails from on the largest percentage, these are the people who you were getting emails from a year ago, and people were very excited about that function. So even just an analysis of my email telling me week by week who are the top 5 people I was communicating with would be really interesting to me, and I could scroll through that because there might have been like 10 investors I talked to about Mahalo in the A round, the B round, now, and I don't even remember.
Yeah. So one of the things that I toss in, I'm an investor in a company called Gist, which has what you're describing sounds like a subset of what they're providing. They're sort of in the same general domain that Zobni is in. There's also a TechStars company called Filterbox, which was just bought by a company called Jive, that does essentially social media monitoring against individual people. There's a lot of people that have dealt with the monitoring side of the equation, and it's very, very complex. And so I think you have two pieces you have to kind of figure out where you're going to spend your time. One is living within the applications and the stream of the emails or the messages that you're using to determine who your contacts that you need to have interactions with are. And the second side of the problem is actually doing all the mining of the data that exists in real time on the internet, whether it's web-based data or Twitter-based data or something else, and linking it up to all those people. Those are kind of two big separate problems, and I'd encourage you to focus on one or the other as the starting point.
Awesome. So you got a lot of good feedback there. Everybody can go follow you. You have a Twitter account, which is getmingly, M-I-N-G-L-Y, and your domain name is ming.ly.
Tyler, do you have something up and running at this point, or is it still just an idea?
We have a prototype that's been built, and our alpha is scheduled to be coming out in the next 30 to 60 days. We're going to be presenting as a show-off at TwistUp, and that's the kind of roadmap at this point.
Send me an email when you have the alpha up and there's something I can play with.
Yep.
Awesome.
Awesome. Great job, Tyler. Very good. All right. He did a good job. That was nice. There we go.
Japanese jazz. I like that.
It's like a wheelchair at Disneyland. That was his comment another time.
Like betting with the Aztecs.
All right, I need to have a direct line to you for pithy comments.
For
when I run out of my normal sort of
betting with the Aztecs.
Yeah, because the Aztecs say 2012 is coming.
Right.
And you could bet everything against it because if you're wrong, it doesn't matter. It's all going to end anyway. So sorry.
Hold on a second.
I got that one. That one's a good one.
Betting with the Aztecs. If you bet against them.
Yeah.
Almost by definition, you'd bet against the Aztecs.
Correct. You're going to bet against the Aztecs because if the Aztecs are right,
correct.
We're all
you're
dead.
effed.
Right.
Yeah.
Got it. I got it. Okay. It took me a minute. This is why he gets his own slide for his insights. So if you have a question for Brad Feld, very simple. You go on Twitter right now. You put #twist, TWIST, and you can ask a question. And somebody actually has already asked one here. Let's see, I will pull it up on my screen. This came in 11 minutes ago from Tweety. Let me see if I can get the actual. Okay, David says, ask Brad to speak about the Founders Visa movement. What does the Founders Visa movement do?
So we started a group that we're actually calling the Startup Visa. And so if you go to startupvisa.com, you can see the website, sort of the background around it. The premise behind it is that it should be easy for a foreigner to get a visa to start a company in the U.S.
Of course.
It's virtually impossible.
That's because George Bush is president.
Yes, that's right.
Oh, wait a second. No, he's
yeah,
not
we fixed that,
president.
haven't we?
Oh.
So the way this came about was Paul Graham actually wrote an essay, probably in the spring of this year, called Founders Visa, the case for the Founders Visa. And it was a very short essay, but it basically said instead of the government spending all this money and all this stuff, they should just give 10,000 visas to immigrants and let them start companies. Look at all the great companies in Silicon Valley that have been created by immigrants. And in the summertime, in this year's TechStars program, 2 of the 10 teams had foreigners. One team had 2 Canadians, and they were very, Canadians are dangerous because they can really drink.
Yeah.
And
they know what it's about.
And they know how to play hockey too, but more importantly, they can really drink. And the other 2 guys were from the UK, were English, and the biggest threat from them to me was I had trouble understanding them.
Yeah.
Because of their accent.
You know what they're talking about.
So these were super bright young entrepreneurs, first time. Both came to Boulder for the summer, or all 4 of the guys came to Boulder for the summer. Each of the 2 companies wanted to stay in Boulder. And we spent real time, and I had, I've been exposed to this over the years with H-1B visas and startup companies.
You pay $5,000 to a lawyer, and it works itself out.
You got to sort of deal with this shit. But this was the first time where I saw 4 people who really wanted to be in Boulder, Colorado, ready to start their companies, fundable. Each company, one company is now called Graphically, and it's raised $1.2 million. The other company, Vanilla, will presumably announce their funding next week. But they couldn't. The people couldn't stay. They just literally couldn't get a visa to stay and start their companies. Right. So this motivated me to write a post about sort of this problem, and the feedback again, like the angel thing, was very significant. It happened very quickly. Many people came out and said, "I have this huge problem. I mean, you're describing my problem. This sucks." Right. Da, da, da. And then there were plenty of other people who kind of trolled around. We got to keep America safe. We have American jobs. We got to protect. Don't want to take away jobs.
Yeah, right. These are the guys who are going to create 100 jobs each.
That's right. So 100. I mean, 10,000.
Yeah. Right. You have 100 in the next 5 years.
You have one that turns into a huge success, and you're talking about the transformation.
People. Yeah.
So then a group of us, which includes Dave McClure, who's a well-known angel investor and also was a early PayPal guy, is now at Founders Fund. Eric Rees, who's an entrepreneur who's now become known for the lean startup stuff that he's been working on. And if you don't know of Eric and you're a software entrepreneur, you absolutely should. He's dynamite. Paul Kudrowski, who's a fellow at the Coffin Foundation, who's
brilliant blogger, Infectious Greed.
Infectious Greed is his blog. Fred Wilson jumped in from Union Square Ventures. Manu Kumar, who has had several successful companies, PhD at Stanford, and is now a venture capitalist or early stage angel investor, venture capitalist with the fund at K9. Sort of this group of us started talking about this and said, this is nuts, we got to change this.
Of course.
So we started making noise about it, and where the premise was there should be an easy way for a foreign entrepreneur who wants to start a business in the U.S. that raises a certain amount of money from U.S. investors to be able to get a visa and get going.
Right. Put that amount of money in a bank account, fill out a form, you're done.
That's right. So it turns out, as we start talking, to the politics is a mystery to me, but to my, the friends of mine that are in the House and the Senate, and some of the other people that we know, what we found out pretty quickly was there's a type of visa called an EB-5 visa, which is basically the opposite of what we want. The EB-5 visa, which has been around since 1990, gives a visa to a foreigner who invests $1 million in a U.S. company.
Oh, genius!
Right. So you can you basically are, the idea is to drive investment in U.S. companies, but the person getting the visa is simply the investor. So there's a lot of controversy around that particular type of visa, people buying visas, et cetera. But the structure was parallel. We want the opposite. We want the U.S. to be the investor, and we want the entrepreneur to be somebody.
This is the talent.
Exactly.
If you have Yao Ming in China, you want him to play in the NBA.
Exactly.
So somehow his visa got approved.
That's right. That's right.
These are the Yao Mings.
He has the tall visa.
Right. Over 7.5.
Over 7.5.
If your team is in the bottom third of the NBA,
and you're tall,
you get the 2 check boxes.
So we actually we formed a real movement, which has been very grassroots, called the Startup Visa Movement. We have had huge positive support around it. We've been very public. We had a recent, sort of good public vetting of it. We had an op-ed in the Wall Street Journal that generated a lot of feedback. Paul Kudrowski and I wrote. There's been a lot of sort of mainstream media reporting now about this is picking up. Several people in the House have been very interested in it. in terms of supporting a bill. And Jared Polis, who's Democrat for Colorado, who's also a very successful entrepreneur. You may remember Jared. He was the founder of BlueMountainArts.com, which was very
Bought
successful.
by Excite for $2 billion?
$800 million, but
Yeah,
give or
who's counting?
take. And then he also founded a company called Pro Flowers, which turned into Provide Commerce, which went public and then was bought by Liberty Media for $500 million. So Jared has had 2 huge entrepreneurial successes and then a bunch of things that didn't work along the way. He got elected to the House last year, or in the last election cycle, and he decided that he wanted to take up sort of, as part of immigration reform is one of the things he cares a lot about. Right. So he's focused on reforming the EB-5 visa, and he's incorporated the startup visa construct into his reform bill there. We're working on the Senate side to get a Senate sponsor, and we're very close to having a very high-profile sponsor on the Senate side. And our idea is that the startup visa is essentially a very powerful mechanism for creating more jobs in the U.S., entrepreneurial jobs that are the key growth. So it's been really fun and interesting. The sort of response from the entrepreneurial community and the venture community has been great. If people listening are interested in helping with this or have stories where they've struggled and gotten through things, you hear these great stories of the 6 or 7 year, these circuitous routes where people eventually end up getting their green card, but it's so absurd.
The one thing you leave out of all of this is the terrorist connection to all these people. So can you comment on that? Because obviously you mentioned all these incredible entrepreneurs. They're obviously in some way connected in Canada to some Al-Qaeda unit or something. For some reason we're keeping these people out of the country, correct?
It's so absurd. I mean, it is, the cliche, we need a Tyler moment. Tyler, what's a good cliche for throwing the baby out with the bathwater? I mean,
give me a minute.
That's
on
the
that.
insight
on that.
But it's exactly that, right? It's just sort of missing it. Now, the neat thing is...
And of course, we're the melting pot, and all the great things that happened in this country happened because of the immigration that occurred over the past 100 years.
I'm only a second-generation American, right? I mean, my parents came from Russia, Eastern Europe, Austria, Germany, and my grandfather was, an entrepreneur.
How soon people forget.
Yeah. So this is part of our, one of the things that I've decided is interesting to me to spend the rest of my professional life on is simply entrepreneurship and innovation. And the domain I play in is software and internet, but there's lots of things around the process of innovation that I think, incrementally can be improved, and one of them is getting just more. It's not a zero-sum game. None of these people are going to take an opportunity away from another entrepreneur. They're creating more.
Especially when you have a global market, they're going to create the business somewhere, and they could create it in China. It's the same thing with going to university. There are people in Europe who are not interested, or people in Asia who are no longer interested in coming to our country because it's not worth the hassle.
Yep.
And so people go to Europe, or the Europeans go to Shanghai, and we're basically being left out of the most intelligent people who could fluidly move around the world except to the United States, the exact opposite of what got us here.
Well, I think it's especially true long-term in terms of the power of the U.S., because it used to be that it was very hard in a lot of other countries to start a company that was a technology entrepreneurial company because there wasn't the entrepreneurial ecosystem, funding ecosystem, et cetera. And even just in the last 10 years, the number of entrepreneurial hotspots around the world that have really exploded in terms of their growth is substantial. So the idea that you have to come to the U.S. to start one of these companies is no longer a foregone conclusion. And I think the goal that we should have in the U.S. is that this is still the best place in the world to start a company like this, and so people want to come here to do this.
So when you're thinking of investing in a company, what are the criteria you look at? Are there 3 or 4 little secrets that you look at and say, if this person, I've heard so many different things. Some people like to invest in young people. Some people like to have people who've just coming off a big loss, and it's their 3rd time as an entrepreneur. Are there patterns that you see in entrepreneurship that make you say, this is a safer bet than these other 90% of the companies?
So let me give you a frame of reference to answer the question, because we do have actually a pretty well-defined way that we think about it at Foundry Group. I've made plenty of great investments, and I've made plenty of crappy investments, and I've had lots of things that have been successful and lots of things that have failed. Unfortunately, the magnitude of the success is bigger than the magnitude of failure. So you'd argue that I'm a good investor, or at least I would argue that I'm a good investor. What I've realized over time is 2 things. One is, when I'm an investor in something I don't care about, that's dumb.
Right.
And when I'm an investor in something I don't know about, that's dumb.
There's enough things that you know about you can invest in.
There's enough things that I know about, and there's enough things to invest in that I know about that I care about. So therefore, we've got a frame of reference which is very simple. Within Foundry Group, there's 4 partners. We have a $225 million fund that we're investing out of. We've made 20 investments to date. We'll probably make about, somewhere around 30 investments from that particular fund. So on average, we invest $5 to $15 million in a company, maybe invest as small as $250,000 in the seed round, as much as $10 million in the first round. So we're sort of in that, there's not a magic formula for us there. What we do is all 4 of us invest in the same kinds of companies. And the way we evaluate things is through themes. So instead of saying, this partner does consumer internet, and this partner does communications, and this partner does business software, all 4 of us invest in the themes that we've defined. I won't go through the themes in detail, but if you go to foundrygroup.com and you type theme into the search box, it'll show you the themes. The themes are very broad horizontal constructs. I'll give you one example of a theme, which is something we call human-computer interaction. Our premise behind human-computer interaction is that 20 years from now, the way that we interact with computers will look as different as the way we interacted with computers 20 years ago looks today. In fact, at Feld.com on my blog this morning, I posted a great video from 1963 of cloud computing.
Yeah.
And it's just
the time-sharing one that was from PBS?
That's right. No, it was an MIT. No, it was actually an MIT reporter. It's from the MIT...
Dave Farber sent it to the Intelligent People list. And
fabulous.
Tweeted,
and it's totally...
it's time sharing on these computers.
It's cloud computing
yeah.
with typewriters, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's hysterical. So the whole point is that the way we interact is different. The idea that I'd be sitting here, you'd have a laptop in front of you, you'd have real-time data in front of you,
yeah.
you'd have, this was not the metaphor in 1985. In 2025, this is not going to be the metaphor. So we're investing.
2025, this desk will be just all the things will be coming by the desk.
So we're investing in companies that are changing the way we do that. An example would be a company called Oblong, which is based here in LA. It's in downtown. The founder is a guy named John Underkoffler, who's an MIT grad, was at the Media Lab, got a PhD there, moved to LA to work for Steven Spielberg, and was the science and tech advisor on Minority Report. So all of the Minority Report computer user interface, the Tom Cruise character,
flipping everything
some
around.
of it touching, some of it spatial.
Yeah.
Right? He had gloves on, remember? He wasn't touching the computer all the time. Right. So it wasn't just touch. All of that came out of John's brain with Spielberg, and then he sort of coded it all up in demo form. And then with a couple of friends, spent a couple of years actually building the core of that software. Right. And today Oblong's a real company. They got real products, real customers. And they built essentially the first spatial operating environment where you can control a computer in a 3D space in real time. And oh, by the way, it's not just a user interface problem, it's also a massive data problem. So if one person can control a computer, that's interesting.
Right.
But you don't want one person to control a computer. You want N, and you want N in multiple places, so that video conferencing
now basically it's a virtual world or surrounding you, and you've basically made augmented reality turned inside out.
That's right. So that's when
it's the holodeck in some ways.
I look forward to the day. Right. So HCI would be a theme, and we've got a series of other investments. A company in New York called Organic Motion that makes markerless-based motion capture. So instead of having to put markers all over the body to get motion capture for things like Avatar or video games, whatever, you can just, you walk into the space and their software does it. So we have a series of themes like this, and our approach is as follows. Step one, does it fit in a theme? And if no, we say no immediately.
Right.
So we like to say, we want to be able to say no in 60 seconds.
Right.
And so a lot of times, we'll get interesting things, but they won't be anywhere close to a theme, and we just say, not our thing.
Not our kill zone.
Part of that is also narrowing our universe to software and internet versus sort of this expanded universe of, oh, well, that's a really interesting scientist doing a clean tech thing, but we don't know anything about that. Then let's assume that it's in a theme, and we'll make exceptions. We're not slaves to the theme. So, great entrepreneurs who we've worked with before, they call us up, we take them seriously, and we stretch our minds, and we're constantly looking for new themes.
Right.
So part of our view of a theme is that it's 10 to 20 years worth of investing opportunity, not the latest, greatest thing that we're chasing. Once we get past that this is interesting, we then spend all of our evaluative time deciding whether or not we want to be partners with the entrepreneur. So a lot of people talk about it as people, and they evaluate people.
Right.
And there's sort of a diligence process or some language around that.
Yeah.
That's not how we think about it. We think about it as, do I want to spend a lot of time partners with you?
Do you want to be on the phone with this person on the weekend?
Do we want to be in the battle together? Because creating a startup's a battle. And all 4 of us go through that evaluative process. And as part of that, because it's in these areas we know so well, the work we need to do to decide whether we're excited about the company is just a natural part of interacting with the person. And we have an internal rule, which is every meeting we have to be equal to or greater than excited than the previous meeting, or we're done. So if I have a meeting with you and it's, hey, I'm excited about it, and then my partner Seth has a meeting with you and he's a little more excited about it, and then my partner Ryan and me, or Ryan and Jason have a meeting with you, and one of them is less excited, we're done.
Right.
So there's no arguing within the partnership of, no, let me convince you why. Right? We trust each other's critical analysis enough that we want to each kind of continue to build that momentum, because the easiest time it is to feel good about an investment is the moment before you make it.
Right, sure.
Right? So it's
all promise
it's sort
then.
of that. So we use that approach, and the answer to the specific question of is it A or B or C or D is I don't know.
Yeah.
Right? It's situational. It varies. It moves around. I mean, do I like to invest in young entrepreneurs versus experienced entrepreneurs? I like them both.
Yeah.
You know, do I like entrepreneurs who have come off failure? I mean, I'm an investor in Zynga. Mark Pincus is the CEO. Mark's first company was successful. Mark's second company was successful. His third company was a painful not success.
Embarrassment. Tribe.
You know, embarrassment. I mean, he had social.
He was embarrassed.
He had social networking before. Social networking
he was
mainstream.
embarrassed by it.
Right.
Tribe was brutal for him.
Right. It was hard.
And he tried so many times to make it work, and all he could do was get these Burning Man people to embrace the site and drive everybody else away. And then you know what? Thank God he failed at that, because that
freed him up to be able to put his brain against Zynga and create something that's incredibly successful.
For everybody, as opposed to just the Burning Man people.
That's right. And you know, for Mark as an entrepreneur, it's also been, you know, I'd worked with him before, so I knew him for a long time. It's been fabulous to watch him grow, because in Freeloader, it got sold very quickly, 4 months in. SupportSoft, you know,
he's going big this time.
The board and the VCs hired a CEO 2 years in because they didn't feel comfortable with Mark taking the company public.
Right.
With Zynga, I mean, the scale of the business is magnificent, and Mark is doing an unbelievable job as CEO and as leader of the company. And you know, it's great to participate in something like that. So that's an example. We also invested in a TechStars company from last summer called Next Big Sound. 3 founders of Next Big Sound are all, you know, recent college grads. They're all in their early 20s. They're incredibly passionate about the thing they're going after. Super smart, super energetic, and not experienced.
Yeah.
Right. So it's much more about the thing, and is this thing something we feel like we know and love and want to cuddle and be part of?
Right.
And if then, do we want to be with you all the time? That's how we think about it.
And the opposite is true when you're picking a VC. You got to pick somebody who you're going to want to have there by your side when things are going bad. Everybody's a hero. Everybody's great when things are good, when the market is good, when there's, you know, but when there's problems and traffic is down and money is burning, that's when people kind of lose it.
Yep.
Tell me about the worst situation you've ever been involved in as an investor, and I know you were in a couple of big washouts of Web 1.0.
Oh,
Which one was the absolute worst, most toxic, brutal situation?
Well, there's 2 answers. There's the most toxic and the most heartbreaking.
Go with toxic first.
Okay, because heartbreaking I think is instructive also, but heartbreaking.
We're going to do both.
Okay.
But I want to hear the toxic one, the
here's
one that was got the most bitter.
Let me think about toxic. Let me describe the context of toxic though, because this also shapes my point of view. I don't think it's important just for the entrepreneur to choose his investors carefully. I think it's important for the investors to choose their co-investors carefully.
Of course, yeah.
So, you know, when I was at Mobius, and we made about 75 of the investments that I've made have been personal investments as an angel, and a couple of hundred were while I was at Mobius. And then we made 20 out of Foundry. Many of the investments at Mobius that, you know, each partner made investments. So I had a set, but I had lots of other partners that made investments, but I was part of those investments. I can think of a number of situations where the premise behind the company was good, the entrepreneur was good, the situation, nothing ever goes as planned.
Yep.
The company needed more money, things went slower, the dynamics shifted, whatever they were. And as more and more investors got into the mix, the alignment between the investors stopped working.
Yep.
Some investors would have less money to be able to put in future rounds. Some investors got across purposes. There were a few situations where investors truly hated other investors, almost couldn't stand to be in the room with each other. And that, when I think about the most toxic,
Yeah.
It's that, because you're looking at the situation. It doesn't actually really matter whether the entrepreneur is great or lousy at that point.
Yeah.
You're fucked.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, you have an ownership structure of the company that's the employees, the entrepreneurs, and the investors.
Right.
And usually by that point, when you have a bunch of investors around the table, they own a majority of the company.
Right.
And if there's disconnect between their motivations and their goals and their inability to interact, that's a problem that can be just completely toxic. And I've seen entrepreneurs, do everything they humanly knew how to do to try to drive things. I'm an entrepreneur. I can convince these people.
Right. That they like each other.
And
they
there's
want
just
to work
something
together.
else going on irrationally.
Ripping the company apart.
And it destroys the company. And it's a bad characteristic that gets attributed to VCs. I mean, there's a lot of things that VCs do well and a lot of things that VCs do poorly. And on that spectrum, I think one of the things that VCs struggle with is when they're in that situation, you become emotionally invested in a particular outcome that may not correlate with what reality is.
Right.
And those are the most toxic examples I've been in. I've been in a couple of cases where I've resigned from a board and walked away from an investment that I knew was going to fail.
Yeah.
I'd made the judgment it was going to fail. The other investors around the table maybe did, maybe didn't, but they continued to try to do something to make progress, but in the process torturing everybody.
It was famously the industry standard, which I don't know if you were involved in.
I remember that one.
They had term sheets available. They would have made it through the dot-com bust, even though everybody else got whipsawed. Pat McGovern wouldn't do it. The company crashes, according to the stories I've heard. Everybody loses everything. Pat McGovern buys the brand back a couple of years later out of bankruptcy and never does anything with it.
Yeah, it's a pretty sad story. Jonathan Weber, who was one of the co-founders with John Battelle, started a company called New West that I put some money in as an angel investor, and I've gotten to know Jonathan over the years. And that's a good example where there was an amazing thing created
and destroyed.
And the impact on the individuals that were the entrepreneurs, you can't underestimate how hard that is.
That crushed John Battelle.
Because it's one of those things where, this is the heartbreak, right? I mean, I was a co-founder of a company. Now let's shift to that. I was a co-founder of a company that was originally called Sage Networks, and then it got funded. It bought a bunch of web hosting companies. It then turned into an application service provider, so cloud computing before cloud computing was popular. We went public in 1999. I was co-chairman of the company with a guy named Len Fassler, who had bought my first company. So somebody who was a great mentor. I adore Len. I've done a lot of things with them. Some that have been successful, some that weren't. But the end result of this, we went public. The company was worth a couple of $1 billion in the public markets. We raised a debt financing. The company was never profitable, right? So it was one of these companies that was, losing, I don't know, $3, $4, $5 million a month at one point. We raised a very large debt financing, $160 million. The bankers that were bankers at the time basically said, "Oh, don't worry, it'll convert into equity. You will never have debt.
No big deal. Covenants, blah, blah, blah."
Da, 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 da. And, naively, I was too naive to think it through. It was also something that, we weren't the only company that did. There were about 30 or 40 internet-related companies that raised a convert at that period of time. I think all the converts ended up being what were called busted, which meant they never converted into debt, into equity. They were always debt. If your company is losing that kind of money, you can't have $160 million of debt on your balance sheet. You can't service it. You can't. You're going to run out of money.
Right.
And then you can't raise any more money. Your equity's not worth anything. That company, after actually getting to a place where it was a real company through people fighting hard to get there,
years and years of work,
it ended up going bankrupt and was worth nothing, and nobody took any money out. So it was one of those. It wasn't a case where everybody exited early and the company still ultimately failed. It was just really heartbreaking, and it was heartbreaking from the standpoint of both being an entrepreneur creating it, but also being an investor and being linked to. In this particular company's case, we raised $160 million of debt. The IPO, the private capital, was about $300 million, right? That's a lot of money to think about having economically raised and then not built anything of value from.
Right.
Those are good lessons. So, for example, as an entrepreneur, as a venture capitalist, I'd never invest in a company like that again. That's not the thing I like to do.
Now that's like a red flag for you. Like, I just can't be in a situation where $5 million is being burned a month and there's debt.
I'm sure there are people that like to do that type of investment and can be successful.
I never touch debt as a financing.
It's not me, right? So, one of our rules at Foundry Group that we learned from things like that, right, where most of the companies we invest in, we believe that we'll know whether they're working or not after we've put $10 million in. and most of them should be able to be successful by the time they've raised $25 million.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the zone at which,
Right.
and when I mean successful, I mean cash flow positive.
Yeah.
I don't mean...
Don't need any more money.
Yeah.
You've done it.
So I think that the behavior on our part is driven, and certainly some of the object lessons for me from both toxic and heartbreaking comes back to the filtering I described earlier.
Yeah.
Work with things you know, and work with people you want to work with, and do things you care about.
Yeah.
Right? And
then you've got optimal,
very
you've got as
simple.
much control as you could possibly have in a very uncontrollable, unpredictable situation.
That's right. You can only impact a certain set of things, and you may as well, if you want to take something that's very hard to be successful at anyway,
Yes.
and maximize your chance for success, those are some attributes that help you there. The other thing which for us is important as a firm is we've decided we don't ever want to grow. I think one of the challenges with the perception of venture capital and dynamics around venture capital as investors is a lot of venture capitalists and a lot of venture capital firms grow.
Right.
And that becomes sort of the mission. Well, it's not really a growth industry, right?
So it's a boutique industry.
As an investor, I want to make, as a firm, I want to, with my partners, make 6 or 7 new investments every year for the next 20 years.
Yeah. That's enough.
That's a good.
No need to raise $1 billion fund, $2 billion fund that you'll never be able to deploy.
No.
And if you did deploy it, it's going to be a miserable outcome. And disappointing. Let's get ready to start the news with Lon. And when we do, what was the most glorious win of your career?
The most glorious win of my career. Well,
One you just go, wow, that was the best
I
win.
hope the most glorious hasn't happened yet.
Well, the most glorious to date. Okay.
I would say one of the ones that, from a financial return perspective, was. I'll give you 2 examples. From a pure financial return perspective, I was an investor in a company called Service Metrics, which was a Boulder-based company. It was started in 1998. It was bought in the summer of 1999 by Exodus Communications for $280 million. By the time the deal closed and we got our stock, the way the deal was configured, the value of that stock was a little bit over $1 billion. And we had what was a $5 million investment in 18 months turned into a $200 million return. And it was
40x.
40x. So not the highest multiple that I've had, but in terms of length of time.
Yes. What was the length of time then in total?
Less than 18 months. But
18 months, $195 million in profit.
And complete realization, because we sold the company, or Exodus bought the company, we got the stock, and we had no emotional attachment to anything.
Yeah,
no
it's
restrictions,
over.
nothing. Yeah. So we distributed the stock immediately. The deal was done.
Career maker.
And so that was an early one like that. I think in some ways one of the most satisfying angel, and I'll go to that was a venture investment. Yeah. A really satisfying angel investment for me was a company called Harmonix, which made the original Guitar Hero and then subsequently got bought by MTV and created the Rock Band franchise. The 2 co-founders of that, Alex Rogopoulos and Aron Agozi, Aron was a fraternity brother of mine, but not one that I lived with. He was about 5 years younger, 6 years younger than me. So I didn't know of him, but he knew of me as an entrepreneur. As he was starting Harmonix with Alex, they were going out to they raised about $100,000 from their family and the money they had. They needed to raise $500,000. He just sent me an email saying, "Hey, I'm in ADP, which is my fraternity at MIT, and a couple people said we should get together. I'm trying to put together a company. Would you get together with me?" And I said, "Absolutely." So we went and we had had Indian food or something.
This is pre-launch.
Pre-launch, yeah.
Wow.
This is 1995. And I put together a $500,000 financing. I tossed some money in myself. My first business partner participated. A very close friend of mine, Warren Katz, participated.
And thank you for the call.
Yeah, Len Fassler. And
when
a
that
couple of
happens
others
again, call Jason.
That's right. And
trying to be an angel investor
I don't even
year.
know if I knew you then.
Right.
So what happened was I put together this list of people. My dad was in this round, and the end result was Harmonix struggled until about 2004. So the reason it's such a satisfying one is it's a good example of the overnight successes that take a decade.
Boom.
Right? Guitar Hero came out end of 2004, 2005, and that's when the company
So how many
exploded.
year before that were they chugging along?
Almost 10. Right. So the company was started in 1995, and it didn't really hit till. And they released some products. They released a video game here and a thing there, and it was all the innovation they did led up to Guitar Hero. And when they launched Guitar Hero, they had no idea it was going to be successful.
Right.
It was kind of like,
fluke.
We're not quite dead yet. here we go.
We're not dead yet.
And it ended up being, a fantastic investment.
That's unbelievable.
For everybody involved.
I always tell people that, it's like these companies, like Twitter is a perfect example. It's just going like this. I signed up in month 3 when it had no website, and BizStone and Evan signed me up over my phone, and then I'm calling them 2 months later saying, how do I turn this thing off? There's no website. It's like, there was no website with instructions. It was just, they hadn't put up a website. And then just dun, 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 poof. It's just such a great thing to see that gestation period and then explode. Yeah. And it does happen sometimes 3, 4, 5 years in, and it's another 15-year overnight success.
Absolutely. So that's
Zappos is the other overnight
an
success.
Important object lesson every entrepreneur, right? I mean, some of the big, great things just take a long time. And, the thing I'm so proud of, as a friend of guys like Alex and Iran is just their absolute persistence to pursue a vision. Right?
Is that the most important quality as an entrepreneur? Is the relentlessness? Is the resiliency? Is it vision? I mean, you take vision.
I don't think there's I don't think there's the most important, and I think for different people, it's different things. We were talking about earlier about the obsession with product and the obsession with the thing you do for your customers. I think there are characteristics, and again, in the domain of software internet, there's characteristics that are key. There's not a single one, and the blend of them is so important. And oh, by the way, you can get some of them right and then still blow it as the company grows. Yeah. With scale, being able to scale with the business.
You can be an idiot and actually hit the home run. We've seen that too.
So I don't think there's a simple answer.
But resiliency is definitely a key factor.
You have to, look, everybody who's been a successful entrepreneur, no matter how easy or hard it's been for them, it's a hard thing to do. It takes single-minded focus. It has to be the thing you want to do, period. Yeah. So there isn't any, even if you don't have a great thing and it succeeds, you still worked your ass off. Right. So I think that, that level of intensity and focus and drive, you can't be a great entrepreneur and not have it. It's not a part-time thing. It's not a fly-by thing. It's not a thing you can do when you're doing 9 other things. You have to do it.
Absolutely. Okay, so now a lot of people love this part of the show. This is the news. See Lon's incredible infographic? Lon Harris will do the news. So Lon Harris is here. Another week goes by, and Lon has done his news.
I have.
Lon, tell us, what is in the news?
A lot of news this week. Haiti, obviously, very much in the news. The internet responded quickly to the tragic earthquake in Haiti this week. Mobile Accord's MGive system and the U.S. State Department teamed up, set up a special number where people could text message in their donations. So far, it's estimated the program has raised over $5.2 million for more than 500,000 mobile phone users. Anyone watching right now, an example, you can text the word Haiti to the number 90999, and you'll be charged $10 on your next phone bill.
Sure. Let's do it.
Right now, 90999 and the word Haiti. That goes to the American Red Cross.
Hold on, I got to do a SMS. I got to go to my BlackBerry here. I don't do a lot of SMSing. I like one. So wait, the
word
tell
Haiti.
Us all again. To what's the number? To what number?
No, you just text the number 90999.
90999. So
that's
it's
correct.
90 and then 3 nines.
90 and then 3 nines. The word
and then
Haiti.
I put Haiti, which is Haiti.
That's correct.
Now I've done it. I sent it.
That will charge
Boom.
you $10 on your next phone bill. Okay, that $10 went immediately to, well, not immediately, but that $10 went to the American Red Cross. Some of the mobile providers were not prepared for accepting donations with this speed and on this scale,
look at this. And now it says, to confirm your $10 donation to Red Cross International Response Fund with a reply with a yes. So that's great. So it actually, this did work, and I respond with a yes. And so I will ask everybody in the audience, listen, we're all listening to this program. That means you own a computer, means you own a phone. If your phone costs $300 or $400, what's $10 for somebody who is really suffering right now?
Yeah, just lost everything.
Just lost everything, and you've still got your iPhone. So
and interestingly,
go ahead and spend the $10. I mean, it's 2 goddamn cappuccinos at Starbucks. Really, I mean, people are going to buy. People are going to replace the battery in their iPhone for $100.
I mean, $10.
$10
anymore.
Even
movie ticket. I've
been trying to get Lon to buy a blazer for 35 episodes, and he donated $10.
Even I donated.
Even he.
I donated some more too to Doctors Without Borders, which is a great organization. People should go
very
to their
good
site.
organization.
They're doing a lot of great work.
That's a good mitzvah.
Well,
and go ahead. Continue.
So I was saying a lot of the cell phone providers actually had to tweak their systems to make this work. There's usually a 90-day delay for these kinds of donation systems, which they're all trying work really hard to close that window.
Yeah, well, it's not like those telecom companies have the money laying around to do anything like this, right?
Well, Verizon Wireless has advanced $3 million on behalf of its users that they have donated.
And I guess AT&T would advance the money, but I guess their network's down.
Right, they tried, but the 3G is not
Yes,
working.
it's not
right,
working.
so.
When they get their 3G up and running, AT&T will afford it.
So I guess you sort of answered my question by actually doing it live on the air, but is there a concern about entrusting charitable donations to large faceless corporations that are not usually in the nonprofit business? Would you feel more secure making a donation directly to Red Cross, the Yelly Foundation, which is Wyclef Jean's foundation?
I don't know. Of course, I don't have a problem with it because it came from you, and I'm sure you vetted it.
I did.
And
I did it myself.
Will there be some fraud or shenanigans with this stuff? Yeah, but not in a widespread way. And it's too big of a risk for a big company like AT&T or Verizon to do something nefarious because of the bad PR, because there's somebody who's the CEO of that company. And as you know, like if somebody here were to do something stupid and then I have to answer for it, I'd be really upset. There's that fear of God in the people at AT&T that if somebody screws up getting this money, they're going to be fired, and some CEO is going to have to go on CNN and say, "Hey, we're schmucks, and here's why." So, I think it's fantastic, and Causecast, which I'm on the board of advisors of, provides this kind of infrastructure to not only like big causes like this, but to everybody, where we can just donate. So check out causecast.org, and they're doing it.
And they're doing the impact section on Huffington Post as well, which has been a major source of information this whole time.
The Huffington Post wanted to, because they have 25 million people, they wanted to do charitable giving, and they put Causecast on it. It's been going very well for them. But yeah, this is a whole new level of fundraising that is completely fluid. I'm actually surprised it's not being discussed more, and it's like the first time I've actually heard the number, although I did hear you could do something like this. Why isn't this on every TV program with a PSA? And like that would be, it's really just spreading through Twitter, I guess. But
Twitter and Facebook actually are the two largest sources of this kind of information disseminating out there.
Well, that's the way
so
it's supposed to happen, I guess.
This interesting, the MGive system that they're using to do all these text messages. The previous biggest event was American Idol. They're the ones who handled the American Idol fundraising drive.
Well, American Idol's right now, so can somebody, who's the guy who runs American Idol? Simon Cowell?
Well, yeah, Simon Cowell, and then he's got
Fox?
his partner.
Rupert Murdoch?
Oh, what's the guy's name?
Well, anyway,
I'm blanking on the...
It's another Simon. Maybe people should tweet that
That's it, Simon Fuller.
Why don't they tweet that the money from the votes for the rest of the season, everybody tweet this right now, it's your Geary, the rest of the votes for the season, the money from that on American Idol should go to Haiti. How's that for an obvious idea?
What about all the blog posts people are running on ad-supported sites about Haiti? Should that all go to? That's something that's been debated.
We did a virtual. We did a virtual giveaway in Mahalo.
We did,
and it was $400 immediately.
Over $400 Mahalo dollars,
right?
Which works out to about $350 US.
And Mahalo will match that, of course.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah, why not?
That's an announcement. That's the first time.
Yeah, let's not make too big of a deal out of it.
Okay,
give us another tech story. And by the way, it's not a political show, but I was pretty outraged to see two incredibly stupid comments, just as a total aside, that spread very virally on the internet.
I'm assuming you mean Rush Limbaugh and Pat Robertson.
Did you hear these two quotes, by the way?
No, I saw the tweets about the quotes, but I didn't see the quotes.
Unbelievable. The first quote from Rush Limbaugh is that
Obama.
I don't even know what it is. How could it be unbelievable?
Yeah.
Okay, good point.
It's very consistent if you follow Rush Limbaugh's career.
But the second one from
Pat Robertson.
No, I want to hear the Rush Limbaugh one.
The Rush Limbaugh one is Obama is helping the people in Haiti to curry favor with the light-skinned black people in the United States.
Light-skinned and dark-skinned.
Okay, so both.
Yes.
As opposed to just saying the black people, or the African Americans.
The light-skinned and dark-skinned black communities.
The people who are in between light and dark, they're not being... Anyway.
Isn't this just typical?
And which just led me to think, as opposed to George Bush, who let all the black people drowned in
his own country.
In his own country.
It wasn't even 90 miles away.
But really, that's why he's helping them, because they're black? Or he's not helping the people in Haiti because they're dying in the poorest country in the Western Hemisphere, and it's the right thing to do. Obama and the United States is helping to get more favor.
To curry favor.
This is why I don't watch television.
That's unbelievable.
Yeah. Or the radio. You got to turn off the radio, too.
Who are the people who would actually put this person on the airwaves to say something so insane? But the same people who put Pat Roberts, is that guy's name?
Pat Robertson.
Pat Robertson.
To be fair, he's on the 700 Club, which is the Christian network, so it's not like the public airwaves.
As somebody who grew up Catholic, this is a total disgrace.
I think it's a disgrace. I think this is one case where actually even the mainstream American, even the fundamentalist Christian groups are coming out and saying, look, this guy...
Dude, slow your roll.
This is not what we stand for.
So you have to, so what does he say?
The atheists were very happy about what
Pat
Robertson
actually,
had to say.
as an atheist...
Speaking as an atheist, I feel...
This was Christmas.
This is not the 700 Club. This is the Atheist Club.
Right.
This is the Atheist Club here.
He's doing their bidding. Yeah,
In other words, the
absolutely.
people with over 100 IQ points.
The Jewish and Catholic Atheists.
The best quote I saw on Twitter was, "I'd like to take 700 clubs to Pat Robertson."
Yeah. No, I mean, he basically says
Haiti made a pact with the devil.
that Haiti made a pact with the devil.
Yes, and that's why this happened.
And this happened. But he says it, well, you know, this is a very
True story.
True story. That's the best part.
It's a very true story.
It's a true story.
It's very true.
people don't know.
People don't know it, but if you look it up on the interwebs, it's very true that people made a pact with the devil to get rid of baby
Satan.
Doc Duvalier, and now the devil has come and destroyed their
This
people.
is what you get.
This is what you get. And this woman next to him is like a 30-year-old like co-host that they put with him, like this senile guy. And she's like, it's a true story.
Sure.
She's just thinking to herself, what is oh my God, why is this person, did he take his meds or whatever? It's so sinister and
It's evil. It's
disgusting.
an evil thing to
so
say.
evil and disgusting thing to say when people are suffering that you can only laugh because the guy is so senile that you're just, it's almost like when you're 90.
Your defense mechanism is to laugh because it's such a horrible.
It's almost like a
how else do you
90-year-old.
I tried to be constructive. I tried to make a deal with the devil to fix the Wi-Fi on my iPhone last night, and he's apparently
He's
not
not
interested.
talking. He's
No,
very
he's
busy
dead.
right
No.
now.
Very
No.
strange. Yeah.
He's in Haiti.
You
know what?
Wait till
Haiti,
he gets
yeah.
back.
The way he feels about it, the fact that he locked it into AT&T, the devil's pretty happy with what he's done to the iPhone. And the fact that the App Store's locked down, he's got a deal with Steve Jobs and the CEO of AT&T. He's pretty happy with his iPhone effort right now. Let's do a real story. Come on.
Move on. Real story.
Come on.
Yahoo Shopping's API. Yahoo announced on their developer network blog this week that they're shutting down their shopping API following an agreement with PriceGrabber, who is now going to provide similar content for their Yahoo Shopping site. Developers currently working with the Yahoo Shopping API will have to go start all over again, getting permission from PriceGrabber to use their content. This is, of course, part of a larger trend at Yahoo of farming out products, such as turning over their social networking to Facebook, pulling in Microsoft Bing for search results, and on and on. What is Yahoo's core business at this point, and is this all entirely motivated by short-term stock value and saving money?
It is part of an overall effort to shed anything that is not core. The irony of that is the core was search.
Yeah, what is the core?
Well, search, email, and news, and they're number one in a lot of other verticals on ComScore, sports, finance, whatever. But as we were discussing earlier with Brad, it's not a product-driven company anymore. Now it's a company driven by somebody who's trying to cut costs and basically somebody who's brilliant at working with Wall Street and has done a good job in turning it around in that way, doubling the stock price, getting the Microsoft deal done. But you cannot, there is no technological company right now that's succeeding without a product visionary at the helm or a product visionary and a business visionary. So if you look at Google, you have Eric and Larry and Sergey. You look at Apple, you have Jesus, who can do both, who's a business and a product head. Just go right down the line. I mean, even News Corp, Rupert Murdoch's a news guy. I mean, he understands the news business inherently, and so he actually knows how to do that business. They need to get somebody to sit next to Carol, who is a product-driven president, who obsesses over product, and who can speak credibly to the API communities, to the developers. I would say it's a bit of a disaster there, but that was like last year. Now I think they're actually shedding some of this stuff that they can't do it well, so why do it? I think is probably what they're thinking. What can we do well? And let's do that really well and try to build in that. I don't know, what's your take on Yahoo right now?
I think it's pretty consistent with what you just said. The dynamics of Yahoo is that for a number of years it's been virtually impossible to do anything with Yahoo externally that's meaningful. And I think, we won't know for another 3 or 4 years whether the resulting thing has sustaining economic value or not. But, the idea that the innovation vector is strong is just gone.
Yeah.
And so, there's a huge number of people that use it. It's, if you look at AOL and you think of AOL sort of in its innovative peak versus AOL today.
And the innovative peak at AOL was 97, 98, 99?
Pre-2000,
Pre-2000.
in that time frame.
Let's call it 98.
Yeah, I mean, there's a very interesting, not just what the business was, but a lot of really interesting things coming out of the company being done, some being done really well, some being done not so well. You look at the thing today, and it's just a shell.
Right.
It's still a business, it's still around.
Yeah,
but
slowly
it's just a shell.
shedding users, slowly shedding revenue, and it seems like that's the trajectory Yahoo's on. However, these companies can be saved. If you look at Apple, Perfect example, when Steve Jobs took over Apple, they had 15 different types of computers. I think they had 15 product lines or 16 product lines. And he was like, let's make 3 and make them really good. It may be what Carol Bartz is using as a roadmap. Yeah. Steve Jobs got it down to 3 or 4 things. Maybe she'll get it down to 3 or 4 things.
I think it's easy to second guess in real time that kind of a transformation. Really, until the story is told, it's hard to know. And the important thing that's going on in a positive way at Yahoo is something had to change.
Right.
Current course and speed that it had been on for the last 3 or 4 years was not sustainable. Right. And so something's changed, and that change may end up in something that does, end up being useful and valuable long term, and it may end up in something that sort of fades away. Who knows?
Another story.
2007 TechCrunch 40 company Cake Financial has
Yes.
been acquired by E-Trade.
What?
Following an alleged
When did
bidding
that
war. This was just yesterday.
I didn't even know. I was so busy with the Open Angel Forum.
That's why it's the news.
That is the news to me.
Yeah.
Cake Financial is a great product.
Following an alleged bidding war may have also included the Motley Fool. Cake was launched with the ability for users to share their investment portfolios with their peers. It has since added new features like the Cake Deck social stock tool and an automated premium service.
I love this company from the beginning. This is from TechCrunch 40, right?
Yep.
This was 2007
3 years ago.
TechCrunch 40.
A lot of people don't know, but that was behind the scenes one of the favored. Definitely in the top running for.
It was in the
prize.
running to win, and it actually was Mint who won.
Yeah, and I remember when Mint won, which obviously they deserved and everything, and the Cake team was. They took it harder than most. I think they knew they had something very cool.
It was a very difficult decision because you had PowerSet, Mint, and Cake, and all 3 were great. And what's the price?
We don't know that they have not.
Price not come out yet.
Price is not available yet. And actually, TechCrunch didn't even have a guess. Usually they guess.
This will take E-Trade from a Web 1.0 company to a Web 2.0 company. It's a brilliant acquisition for them.
So it seems like E-Trade will be absorbing the Cake team and technology, not necessarily integrating the users whose data is going to be destroyed. They're going to reimburse all the people. They're closing down Cake. They're not moving the users over to E-Trade.
What?
Actually, the article you just clicked on said they're shuttering. That's the terminology that I saw.
Wow, well, that's bizarre.
They are, yes. E-Trade acquires and shutters Cake Financial.
I mean, I guess that means they're going to relaunch it at some point. But was the product not doing well or something? Or is there some liability with it?
The traffic had been flat for about a year and a half, they were saying.
Yeah.
So,
well, there's a limited number of people who want to use it. So just so people understand what the premise of it was, you can go look on TechCrunch 50 at the video, or type in Cake Financial video, TechCrunch 50 into Google, you'll find it. You would put in your credentials from E-Trade or other places. It would say that's a verified trade, and you could put your trades out there in real time.
Yeah, it was basically sharing your portfolio
like
with
Blippi
your
does or
community.
Mint does. So
Right.
And then, eventually, I think they wanted people to then, I could say, I'll follow Brad's portfolio, and you guys had an investment like that too, wasn't there? Or Fred Wilson?
Fred has one in co-investor.
Co-investor.
Which he did with Union Square Ventures, and Spark did it.
Ah.
It has some. Sounds like it has some.
It's basically
characteristics
very
like that.
similar, co-investor. So that's bizarre, but keep going.
Yeah, so some have speculated this was sort of a fire sale, and that there's a lot of concern out there, or questions out there, like, did this deal provide any return to Cake's investors?
When a business is shuttered like that, like iMeme, that does indicate the possibility of a washout or a break-even or whatever. What do you think? Is that?
Yeah, hard to tell. I mean, the speculation on both sides when it's an unannounced or undisclosed deal is usually just it's usually wrong.
Yeah.
Either direction. Gosh, this was a nothing, or gosh, this was huge.
That's
It's
ridiculous.
like nobody ever really knows until you dig into it. The fact that they had flat traffic for a year and a half.
For a while.
Yeah.
Clearly it was a technology team buy, not a business buy. And I don't think the
Yes.
company had raised very much money, right? It was relatively small.
It was a pretty
amount
small,
of financing.
early
I thought I saw
VC
reported,
investment.
which is that means that you don't have to have a particularly big exit for it to be okay for everybody.
Yeah, and also going into people sharing their trades, in the year when the stock market loses 60% of its value, probably not a great time.
I think most people didn't want to share their trades, right?
Yeah,
They wanted to-
exactly.
They wanted to
Hey.
hide under the bed.
No, I'm telling you, Citicorp, too big to fail. I'm doubling down. Woo! Okay, last story.
Last story, wow.
Well, give me a story.
Let's do My Town. Foursquare and Gowalla may have the hype, but the geolocation iPhone app My Town looks like it has the numbers. According to TechCrunch, My Town.
What?
According to TechCrunch, MyTown already has 500,000 users and 31 million check-ins. That works out to about 6 check-ins per second compared to 1 check-in per second on Foursquare. It's a game, much like Foursquare and Gowalla, sort of like real-world Monopoly. So when you check in places, you can actually spend virtual currency, buy properties, and then when other people check in there, MyTown. And then when other people, it's an iPhone.
It's an iPhone app?
Yes. And then when other people check in there, they pay you sort of virtual rent. And then based on the popularity of the place, the rent goes up or down.
So it's Monopoly for your iPhone.
It's Monopoly with real locations for your iPhone.
I will check it out. I've never heard of it before. It's quite possible that it's done well. It's a game.
It is a game.
But these are real-world check-ins?
Right. So let's say I use my virtual currency to buy Mahalo HQ. Every time somebody checks in at Mahalo HQ, they pay me a little piece of their virtual currency. If Mahalo HQ takes off and becomes a very viable location, that rent goes up, or I think, yes, that rent would go up. So TechCrunch, MG Siegler over at TechCrunch is theorizing that the astronomical growth is due to Apple featuring the app for 2 weeks after its launch as one of the sort of highlighted front page apps. But it seems like there's got to be other factors for why this is so suddenly popular.
Yeah, and I don't know what they are.
Especially under the radar.
Very bizarre. I don't know. Maybe it's a bunch of kids playing it or something. But I'll have to check it out.
Well, we'll have a real-time review in 5 minutes.
We will. Brad's playing with it now.
If AT&T actually.
If AT&T actually allows you to download. Yeah. Keep going.
You want to talk about Google China? Is that I don't know. I didn't know if that was startup themed or not.
No,
but
of course
it's a big
It's
story.
very interesting.
Google has been widely reported has threatened to shut down its Chinese site, Google.cn, due to concerns about hacking and censorship. They've also decided to stop doing their own censorship on Chinese search results. Specifically, Google is alleging that China conducted a state-sponsored or state-sanctioned infiltration of its email networks and proprietary source code. The Chinese government has responded by downplaying the threat, calling on Google to respect its rules and regulations and what they call the country's legal traditions. Google currently has a 30% share of the Chinese internet stock market, and we should note the Chinese government already blocked...
Wait, stock market or...
Search market, excuse me.
Yeah.
And we should note the Chinese government already blocks access to the company's YouTube streaming video services, along with some other Google products. Who do you think is going to blink first? And is it worthwhile for Google to risk its sizable business in China for a sort of taking a stand like this?
So they have 30% search share in China. It probably is pretty meaningless on a cash basis, or maybe not that huge, because in China there's not a huge advertising base right now. And so while the business is growing over there, I don't know that it's necessarily going to be material for... I wonder what that is to their revenue in Europe and the United States, where advertising is much more refined.
What do you think locking that in now? I mean, if they disappear in 5 years, 10 years...
I'll tell you what this really has a lot to do with. Larry and Sergey, very principal founders, and they have Eric Schmidt as a CEO, but Larry and Sergey still run that company. They're putting them two together, largest shareholder in the company, many more shares than, say, Eric. And Larry and Sergey are principal guys who are quirky and want to run it a certain way, and supposedly Sergey is the one behind this. And I see these guys all the time at the TED conference or this conference or that conference, and they're at Davos. And I think it's probably one of those things where, like, if we are going to sit here and talk about freedoms and be Google, and I think maybe it just got to the point where, like, okay, we're being attacked by the people who we're acquiescing to, and it just didn't feel right to them. And at a certain point, it's not about money. They have so much money personally and the company, they don't know what to do with it. That's the word at Google is, I've heard this from multiple sources now, is that Google has so much cash and so much free cash flow, they don't know what to do with it. And they don't want to go buy huge things because they don't want to seem like they're taking over the world. But the amount of cash coming out of that AdSense machine is so great, there's nothing they can buy. There's nothing $20 million, $30 million, $40 million. That's why AdMob at a $750 is nothing to them. Just buy it and keep it away from Apple. So I actually think this is a very personal decision. And if you look at Yahoo, it's very ironic because Jerry Yang is Taiwanese, and Yahoo acquiesced and gave over email addresses, supposedly, of people who were political bloggers and whatever. Dissidents. And I sympathize with Jerry Yang because it's a very difficult decision, and also his employees would go to jail if he didn't do that. And so, if you don't give over those dissidents' name, then you all go to jail. But there is a very big issue with the internet is very binary. It's very hard to block the internet and police it the way they're trying to. So there's so many mirrors for Google. I don't think it's going to make much of a difference. But there's a lot more to this. There are 40 companies that were hacked, and Google supposedly today.
Juniper announced that they were one of them today.
Yeah, and Google pre-announcing this, they're doing this, tried to get 40 people to do it at once to come out against the Chinese government, and those other people didn't because it would affect revenues too much. This is like a William Gibson book. We're going to war over cyberspace. It's literally a war over cyberspace. They're stealing Americans' trade secrets. They're using the cloud computing to capture people and probably put them in jail and torture or kill them if they're dissidents, which is what happens in China sometimes. And it is mind-blowing. It is absolutely mind-blowing. I mean, Hillary Clinton had to make a statement on it. You think about that. There's hacking is going on, and the Secretary of State has to address it in 24 hours after it. That's like something from a science fiction film 10 or 15 years ago.
Yeah.
There's actually two books, two separate books that are worth reading if people are on the show are readers that are so instructive around this phenomena. One is a book called Breakpoint, which is, they're both science fiction or cyber thrillers. Breakpoint by Richard Clarke, who was the National Security Advisor.
Yeah.
Right? And he wrote a novel, a factual book after he retired, and like 7 people bought it. And then he wrote Breakpoint, which has been a huge success, and he's got a new book called Scorpion's Gate. He's a fabulous writer describing all this stuff in a novel format. So that's one. I would pick up Breakpoint because it's directly to this. The other book, which it's actually 2 books now, the second one just came out, a guy named Daniel Suarez came out with a book 2 years ago called Daemon, D-A-E-M-O-N, and just came out with a book, the second book in the series called Freedom. And Daemon is the technical side of the problem and all the cyber hacking and cyber attacks, and it's fabulous. I mean, just extraordinarily well written. All the augmented reality stuff plays into it, and it's just very, very clever. And then Freedom is the societal impact of what got started in the first book.
D-A-E-M-O-N.
D-A-E-M-O-N. They're both hugely relevant for this kind of a problem.
Right.
And, you know, it takes the 10 years, 15 years ago science fiction and William Gibson, Bruce Sterling type futures and takes today and goes forward a decade.
So in terms of daemon, we're talking about like a daemon running on a server.
Exactly.
Yeah. Interesting.
Exactly. And it's a, you know, there's a video game virtual world I mean, it's an extremely well written book. In fact, Suarez is a very popular book at Google. A friend of mine introduced me to it, who's now at Google. He used to be at FeedBurner, Rick Clow, who's friends with the author and was an advocate of it. It sort of has made the rounds. And I think Daemon at the moment in time they came out may have been one of the best cyber thrillers ever in terms of reflecting
Freedom.
Reality. Well, his first one was Daemon, and then Freedom was the sequel.
And which one do you say?
They're both great. You read them in order. You read Daemon. You can't read Freedom without Daemon because you won't understand sort of the context.
Got it. So anyway, combined with the trade imbalance, combined with the fight over natural resources and oil, it's beginning to make me nervous again. You know, after this whole financial crisis gets cleaned up a little bit, you start feeling like, gee, the world's a little bit better. And then you have Yemen jumping into the scene with terrorism, you know, a foil plot that, you know, we can debate all day if it was a real threat or not.
But to add on to that, we have known for a long time that Al-Qaeda is active in Yemen.
Of course.
Since well before 9/11 even.
Sure, but I mean the reality of an attack taking place with somebody who just left Yemen and was given the bomb in Yemen, and who is not a citizen of Yemen, who is a citizen of the Nigeria, and was living in the UK with a dad who's a president of a bank.
Right.
It starts to feel like a William Gibson slash who's the guy who did Jurassic Park?
Crichton.
It feels like a Crichton-Gibson mashup now of international proportions, and with our trade imbalance with them, you know, maybe they want our debt. They're attacking our companies. Are they attacking our companies so that we don't attack their economy and take over and have them there as customers? I mean, it seems to me like if I was a government official there and my friends were running domestic companies that were CEOs of those companies, the best thing to do is to get these American companies out, steal their trade secrets, and make your own products.
If you're interested in the last 2 minutes of what Jason just said, read Daemon.
Yeah,
I mean, we live in this incredibly complicated world, and I've said for a long time the way to understand the future is to read science fiction from the past.
Yeah,
because they're wrong about a lot of things, but there's an awful lot of things that come true. And if you go back far enough in time, they usually get things like space travel wrong, like things are going to happen faster, and I'll be able to fly from here to Europe in 4 minutes. My teleporter and jetpack doesn't exist yet, but all of the societal dynamics around computing and information and power and control, all of that stuff, we're in it now. I mean, the next 5-10 years of society is going to be really impacted by the way that this stuff evolves.
We're only 9 years away from replicants. Right. Nexus 6 we have the Nexus 1 just came out, and Nexus 6 will be here in 2019.
Replicant.
Blade Runner.
It's a replicant and a jetpack, right? You put on your back.
Well, I mean, the Nexus 1 is obviously, if you've seen Blade Runner, it's Nexus 6. That Blade Runner takes place in 2019. So we're 9 years. It's going to be, that means the next Google phone is going to come out every 18 months or so until 2009. Wow. Give us the last story.
Last story.
It's fun doing the news, huh?
It is. I enjoy
like
the
news. People love the news part.
We can do, let's see, I'll give you a choice. There's Apple acquisitions, something called SARK-Mark, which is really ridiculous and kind of silly, and news cred.
Give us the Apple acquisition.
Apple acquisitions. Since Steve Jobs returned to Apple in 1997, they've only acquired 11 companies, not a huge number, and 3 of these were in the last 5 months. According to Business Week, the company has hired a Goldman Sachs investment banker, Adrian Perica, to serve as a dedicated mergers and acquisitions specialist. So what is driving the company's new focus on acquiring other companies, or is there a new focus on acquiring other companies? And what, if any, major deals do you think we'll start seeing from Apple?
There is one major deal that's out there. That's Adobe. That's a transformative deal, because all those Adobe applications would be great as Apple applications, and Adobe and Apple have been at it for a while now, between Flash and Safari, and Flash, all this stuff. Photoshop. So Adobe is a no-brainer, and that would be a large transformative acquisition, or to have those things built into the thing. And you have iPhoto and you have Photoshop. I mean, there's going to be a lot of overlap, but it could be pretty transformative. Losing AdMob as a deal, I think is probably burning Steve a little bit. He probably really wanted that because they have this huge iPhone infrastructure and this huge ecosystem. The ecosystem in there is applications. Applications are bought, make revenue 2 ways. They're being bought, and there's advertising. Advertising is a much more powerful way to do this than buying it. I mean, people are going to, right now, people have no problem spending $1, $2, $3 on these things. When there's free versions of a video game available for nothing with advertising, and there's another game that's poker or chess or whatever, a race car that costs $5, what do you think kids are going to do? They're going to take the free one with the advertising. So the advertising games could wipe out and wash out a lot of the paid stuff. So maybe I think probably those 2 factors could do it. Also, the fact that I think they have $30 billion now, and they're throwing off $2 billion a quarter in profits. I mean, they don't know what to do with the money.
There is this notion of capital allocation, which is if I spend some of this money now, can I increase the value of the business long term? And when you don't have a lot of cash, it's harder to make that trade-off. When you have a lot of cash, it's easier to make that.
Yeah.
It's the same conversation you had with Google, where they made, I mean, Google interestingly went through a period, a couple of years ago where, they were very acquisitive, and then they stopped.
Yeah.
In the downturn. Well, some digestion and some sort of, everybody said, we don't really know what's going on, and we're just going to put the brakes on.
Yeah. And
then they become acquisitive again. And so I think you have companies that go through different phases. Microsoft goes through these phases. They like to say we acquire the same amount every year.
Not exactly true.
Let's look behind the numbers really and see what's happening. I think Apple has historically not been.
When they do buy stuff, they buy small stuff. They buy 20-person company, 30-person company, like the one that did the touchpad that's supposedly going to be.
And then every now and then they do a $1 billion acquisition. They do a, Tell Me or something like that. But I think it's interesting to see Apple. I think it's very healthy. I think the idea that Apple would be a meaningful participant in the in sort of acquisitions of entrepreneurial companies.
It's awesome.
There's no negative to anybody in the system about it.
But they are very much a we made it kind of shop. So this is
they're going to be very selective, and they're going to be very focused on what they want to do with it.
I mean, big rumor for 3 or 4 years now that they want to launch a search engine, which I think they're going to. I don't have any inside information. However, I think they're going to have a search engine.
Pineapple.com.
Pineapple.com, absolutely. No, I actually think they're going to have a search engine because the way Google is coming at them, they would be a nice balance of power to be able to come back at them and say, well, we have our own mapping and our own email, and
maybe they'll license Bing.
Maybe they'll license Bing. Perfect. On that note, can we do a couple of things? One, let's thank the sponsors. Gosh, Bing, Ustream, DNA Mail, WebSpy, and PowerVPS. Go ahead and thank them on their Twitter accounts. Bing doing a great job advancing search, DNA Mail for your Microsoft Exchange and Google App Email support, WebSpy monitor all the server activity, employee internet access, mail servers and web hosts. You don't have to do it in a creepy way. You could just give the feedback to your employees like, hey, here's let them see what they're doing all day so they can manage their time. Some of those people are on Facebook playing Fishville for Farmville. I mean,
those are the right games for them to play. They should
I know
play
that they're Fishville,
more
but
Fishville
I mean,
and
can
Farmville.
they play them for under an hour at work and then spend the other 7 hours working? For God's sake?
Fashionista helps me.
All you have to
It
do is
helps
have
me
two monitors on
focus.
going at the same time. You can play
Speaking of that,
Farmville
I had
on
an
one
employee
side.
watching The Simpsons at work, and I told him, like, what are you doing? And he said, I'm watching The Simpsons.
It relaxes me.
And I was like,
I do a better
okay.
job.
He
I
said, well,
program
other
better.
people listen to music. I can watch The Simpsons. I'm like,
Was that Mike? Is this an old Mike story?
no, it's not all Mike. There's another person. I
Oh,
just thought to
really?
myself, I remember when I started at Sony, and it was 93, 94, and I would listen to my Walkman at work, and some older people were just like, you can't listen to that at work. You brought that to work, you know? And it's just a different world. I mean, anyway, thanks to Power VPS as well. And let's give that Nexus 1 phone away, Alex, to somebody who, that'll be like the 5th one we've given away. And then we have to pick a winner for the review contest, so I'll ask Lon to do that after the show.
Sure.
And pick one today so people can see who the winner is. Let Scott Simcoe know. He's the official blogger.
Absolutely.
And in about 15, 20 minutes, we're going to have a special episode with the 4 companies from the Open Angel Forum. Thanks for tuning in, and thanks, Brad, for being here.
Thanks for having me, Jason. It was awesome.
Thanks for the insights, Tyler. That's the
Give
end of
us
the
one.
show.
Close us out with one.
Too bad. And that's the end of the show.
That's it.
Spiked out, I could trip a referee. Tell by my attitude that I'm most definitely from. Hey.
Along with Darth Tyler. Pretty excited about last night, huh?
That was awesome.
It was pretty great to
Yes.
actually. We have somebody switching on the TriCaster, yeah. So when Tyler talks, we can check out him. Pretty great audience at the Open Angel Forum for the first one, and now we're off to the races.
Yeah.
I thought it would be good to do a show with some of the people who presented last night.
Right.
Keiretsu Forum, they don't tell you what goes on. It's shrouded in mystery. The entrepreneurs don't get to know who's in the audience.
Yep.
You don't know what's going on there. They put all this mystery around. The
They
reason
never
they put,
really announced who was in it.
they never announced who's in it. I'm proud of the people who are in it.
Right.
Of
On
course.
both sides.
On both sides. And I'm more than willing to let them tell their side of the story, how it went, what happened.
He must be up to no good.
If I'm being transparent. Yes, absolutely. Somebody just asked, is the Open Angel Forum only open to investors? Somebody asked in the chat room. Yes. So let me explain. I gave last night a little preamble to both the entrepreneurs and the angel investors as to why we were doing this. We should have taped it, but screw it, we didn't. Why was this created, and why are we doing it? A couple of basic rules. The Open Angel Forum is a forum to help entrepreneurs raise angel funds. Let me say that again. The Open Angel Forum is a forum to help entrepreneurs raise angel investment. Nowhere in that sentence did I say Open Angel Forum is a technology event for everybody, nor did I say Open Angel event is an event open to lawyers, accountants, the press, other entrepreneurs. I didn't say it's a 1,000-person meetup. I didn't say it was TechCrunch 50, which is open to everybody. Anybody can buy a ticket, and there's thousands of people, and companies launch. No, it is a very specific and niche event. And I didn't say it's open to every angel. Did I say any of those things?
Well, I think they're confused because the title says Open Angel. Maybe they're assuming
all right, so it is
everyone
now
can
the
come.
closed Angel Forum. No. What I meant by Open Angel Forum was that the entrepreneurs didn't need to pay, and that the angel investors are going to be open with the entrepreneurs. That's what I meant by it.
And transparently
And
open.
transparent. The whole thing is transparent, et cetera. So entrepreneurs at the event came up, and they said, hello, my name is Jason Calacanis. I am raising money for a company called Mahalo, which is 6 months old. I am looking to raise X amount of money at X valuation. And I have already raised this much of the raise. So for example, I might say, I am Jason. I am looking to raise $500,000 in seed investment on a $1.5 million pre-money valuation, which is a $2 million post-money valuation. So for $500,000, 25% of the company, and we've already raised $300,000 of it. Or we're raising $400,000 on a convertible note, which has a maximum valuation of $2.5 million. We had the entrepreneurs actually say that first. So when they came out there, it was very clear that they were raising money. This is not an event where you go present to get press for your product and to debut it to the world. That's what TechCrunch 50 is. We already have that event. This is an event where you are taking a product that's either made in the market, not in the market, going to be made in beta, and you raise money for it. Nobody's going to know that you were at the Open Angel Forum as an entrepreneur unless you yourself disclose that. I left it up to the entrepreneurs. If they wanted to disclose, they were at the event. And all 5 of them said they did, so that's up to them. But in future ones, that's what it be. Now, who's in the audience? The only people allowed to be in the audience are angel investors who have invested in 3-4 deals in the last year or 2. This disqualifies 80% of people who come to these other events who maybe have invested one time $10,000 in a company in 1999, the dentist, the guy who owns an auto mechanic shop, the guy who is a banker or a lawyer who took some stock options in a company who he was the lawyer for, or she was the lawyer for, or the headhunter who complains about this, that, and the other thing, and whatever. Anyway, just high-quality angels. We said no to a lot of people. Some of those people were bad-mouthing me on Twitter, you may have seen. To those people, I say, if you don't like the way I do business, create your own Open Angel Forum and do it better. That's what I did. You can do it too. Nobody's stopping you from creating your own version of this. Call it the D-Bag Open Angel Forum or whatever you want to call it. But don't tell me how to run mine, okay? I don't need the advice. I didn't ask for the advice, nor should you be giving me advice. You're not qualified to give me advice if your website looks like it's from 1998. There's a total aside, though. You know what I'm talking about.
I do.
Do you know that guy?
I don't.
It's unbelievable that somebody would write a tweet to me an hour before the event.
Well, it was interesting. I think this is worth delving into, because his initial point was that the Open Angel Forum is DOA.
He said to me,
yes,
the Open Angel Forum is DOA, dead on arrival, an hour before the event started.
Right. But he feels like he's speaking from experience.
Right.
Right. And I think given the models that people have tried to do this in the past, he has a point.
Okay.
Having not, but I think this is.
I'm going to give you some range here because you're Tyler, but you
Right.
better wind up in the right place.
Well, no. It's very clear that this model where you're not trying to juice an entrepreneur.
Right.
If you are trying
I
to,
get your point.
Yeah. If you're trying to charge, if you're trying to build this as a business for yourself on the backs of the entrepreneurs, it is DOA.
Yes, I agree.
At the right
It's
model.
either DOA or on life support.
Right. And you're going to have to try and hide something and do the 3-card Monty and where the costs were this and I didn't.
Yeah, it's so expensive.
Yeah, that whole rigmarole.
Yeah.
And the truth be told, the entrepreneurs now, and here's the interesting thing: if you pay as an entrepreneur, you kind of expect something.
Yeah.
Right. Every entrepreneur that came did have some expectations, but everyone comes with a graciousness and a humbleness. They're here.
They were happy to be there.
They were there on their own merits.
They knew they got in based on merit.
Yes.
Therefore, they could be cool.
Yes. And it changes the dynamic completely.
Right. They're not like, oh my God,
now
I have to raise money or else I wasted $5,000.
Right. If you're charging the entrepreneurs and you have these angels who show up who are not paying anything, the angels show up and it's more of a network event for them, as we were talking with Brad.
Their life is not on the line.
Right. In this case.
No skin in the game.
Right. No skin in the game at all. Don't necessarily, this is the hobbyist angels, whatever. Yeah. The angels that showed up to this, they were intensely focused on the angels because they were there on merit.
Right.
Not because they had paid.
The angels were selected based on merit as well.
So the dynamic is completely changed.
Absolutely.
The
topsy-turvy.
Yes. The presenting companies are, not expecting the angels have to act in a certain, it makes everything balanced. The way it should be, it's like Japanese gardening or something, you get the right.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
It's a bonsai tree.
Yeah, it's basically a bonsai tree. Everything is at peace and one with the universe.
Yeah.
So anyway, the event was a tremendous success, but I don't want to get too much into the details of it. What I will say is, to the people who did Keiretsu Forum and these other things, you had your chance. I gave you fair warning. You did not comply with the requests. And therefore, you suffer the consequences. We are going to put you out of business. We announced today a second city, Colorado. We announced that the founders of TechStars are going to host it, one of which is Brad Feld, the other one David Cohen, who was there last night. These are killers. You have no event anymore in Colorado. You folded the Keiretsu Forum in Colorado like the dogs you are. You laid down like the dogs you are. And then we have marched into your town, and we now have the two most sought-after people in your town running the Open Angel Forum. We will do this in all 20 cities you are in until you capitulate and you bow down before Zod. Name the movie reference. Superman 2.
Oh, jeez.
Bring me the son of Jor-El. Bow down before Zod. That was my favorite. Anyway, no, listen. You guys knew you were wrong. You had a nice long run. You got away with it for 10 years. You made $1 million a year for 10 years. It's over. It's over. Like a tauntaun on Hoth, you will be gutted. Like a tauntaun on Hoth. There's a Tyler.
I was about to say you're stealing my line.
I'm saying that Tyler told me that when we were in break. But like a tauntaun on Hoth, we have eviscerated you. It is over. Dun, dun. Dun, dun, dun. I just love competition. Don't you?
I don't think they realized how well they were playing into. And thank God that they played.
They're so stupid.
Oh man.
I told Tyler.
The guy had not done his homework on J-Cal because
No.
he literally was pushing
No.
all the wrong buttons.
Where's my AK-47? I need more weapons in the studio. No, I love competition. I'm having good fun with the Keiretsu losers. I'm making a little bit of a show of it.
Sure.
Obviously, I'm being a little dramatic. But the fact is, this is what entrepreneurship is all about. Creating a better model, making better products and services, making better businesses, making yourself better. So to the tauntauns at Keiretsu Forum, who now have their guts spilled all over the icy tundra of Hoth, revel in your death, knowing that we will sleep in your warm carcasses.
And on that note, that's
On
a
that
perfect
note.
segue.
Perfect segue to my first guest, Eric. Now, I'm going to try this because you're French. Well, you're actually from Denmark, but you're French. Eric Lachier. Try it. Eric
Lachier.
Lachier. Eric Lachier. Ah, c'est bon.
Excellent. Excellent.
Lachier, c'est bon. You are, of course, the CEO and co-founder of Tiger Tag with an old friend of mine, Alberto, who was from the Weblogs Inc. days. You're one of the 110 people who applied to the show. You got in. I want to hear the whole experience from you about the Open Angel Forum, and then we're going to talk about your company. When did you hear about Open Angel Forum? When did you apply? What was the application process like? Take us through that. Why did you apply? What was it like to apply?
So basically, I think it was just before Christmas, Alberto, he pinged me and said, we have an opportunity. There's this new thing called Open Angel Forum, and where we have a chance to go and pitch to some angels. I discussed it with him. I said, well, what is that Open Angel Forum? What's the credentials? Is there any history, track record? Are we just making a fool out of ourselves? Is it like many others have said, yeah, if you pay a small dime, then we'll introduce you to some angels, and like we'll only take 2% of your company and all of that. And
yep.
At the end of the day, you wake up and being screwed, right? So here actually was the philosophy of this sounded right. With the innovator, the initiator being you, Jason, with a great track record and with a great following base that allows us, well, for all else equal, it gives us a chance to get out there, get the message out about what we're all about.
Yeah.
And then
so even if it's not great angels, at least it's not going to be a total waste of time.
Exactly, right?
So that was your premise.
Exactly, that was our premise. And then what was the requirements? It was very, very simple. It was a web-based form that we had to fill out. Very, very short comments about the company, where we were, what
Sure.
stage, what we were looking for at funding. And then basically a short 5-minute video pitch that
Right.
we did. I filmed using my MacBook
Right.
and just like got it out there.
How long did it take to fill out the form? And the
Fill
video?
out the form probably 25 minutes,
Okay.
half an hour.
Half an hour.
That's exactly what the aim.
Aim is
So-
half an hour.
Yeah,
Okay.
it worked.
And with my spelling mistakes and Alberto correcting that and all of that, so we got that sorted out. And then
Spelling doesn't count for us. The idea is what counts.
and then the video was also very, very to the point, because basically we know what our company is and pitch it. So it's a matter to just film it and get it out there. So that was a good exercise. And then of course also submitting a small PowerPoint of the company, so you have some background. And then it was just leaning back and waiting and seeing what came out of that. And then it was just early January when we got feedback that we were on the short list, right? So apparently we'd done something right, and let's see if we could get it to the next level. And where we then had a call with you, Tyler, and you, Jason, and allowing us to put a words and a face to what we were all about.
Yep.
And that took maybe half an hour or so, and was a good actually preamble and a good practice for us to get our act together in preparation for the actual forum.
Right.
And then it was just to get here, and
so now that you were accepted,
yes,
so you're pretty excited about that.
absolutely.
You decide you're going to fly all the way to Los Angeles for it.
Yes,
There's some expense in that, time and money.
yes,
So it's costing you a couple $100s to get here and put yourself up, and it's costing you 2 days of your life, 3 days of your life. You decide to do it,
yes.
and take us through what last night was like.
Yeah, so I think one of the first things that was great is that this was actually at one of the Angel's own premise, the domicile. So so it was not.
You could call it that.
You could call it a home. Some people might call it a mansion. Right?
Yeah,
was that
mansion,
one of the
a
Angels'
castle.
houses?
Yeah.
Which this house could be construed as a castle in addition to being a house.
A domicile.
Yeah, I think I was
A
looking for the
domicile would
helicopter
be-
pad, but that was probably the only thing missing on that one.
It was a pretty amazing house.
Yeah, and but already that sets the scene compared to otherwise you might have ended up in a boring convention center at a hotel or whatever.
Yes.
Like this was much more personal,
Intimate.
intimate, right? And then also the fact that we were only 5 startups there, right? That already had been through a selection process, and not like a whole caravan of startups, but we were there and being greeted by you, Jason, and pitched about what this was all about. And then taking to this patio where there was all these angels sitting. And, first when you, honestly, it was I thought, yeah, an angel investor, what's the background and so on. But then when I heard about the filtering process also for the angels.
Yes. Perhaps as much scrutiny on the angels as on the entrepreneurs. We had almost as many angels asked to come and told almost as many they couldn't as we did entrepreneurs.
Yeah. And then what I really impressed about was I was fortunate to overhear a little bit when they were presenting who they were.
Yeah.
And of course, a huge track record, but also many with scars, right?
Yeah.
So they had their own experience of doing startups.
Right.
And that's the type of folks I would like to have as angel investors.
Yes.
Not those who just made a ton of money on Wall Street and said, yeah, here's a buck, go
You're
play,
not interested
right?
in a dentist investing in your company.
Exactly, right? I want somebody that actually can guide me and mentor me and help me, right? So the money is one thing, but the intellectual property that can come into it is much more worth it. And there were some, they're all high caliber, great people with a lot of experience.
On that premise alone, kind of makes it a completely unfair competition in this, I think. Just the caliber of the angels. And it's exactly right. Money, as some people come to find out, there's all kinds of money out there.
Right.
But it's that really smart, engaged, Brad Feld, excited, former entrepreneur experience that, is worth more than the money itself.
Yeah.
Of course. And so you get in there and you're introduced.
Yes.
You're given a beer.
Yes, which was good. And then it was basically a 5-minute demo of Tiger Tag, and then afterwards a pitch around Tiger Tag, and then Q&A. And actually it was about to wrap up as quickly as possible, so there was enough time for Q&A, because I think that's the interaction with the angel is where you really get the best out of this.
So
right?
at the end, all the entrepreneurs came out and got to hang out on the patio eating Kobe burgers and drinking some beers and having some ahi tuna seared by the Mahalo chef, Jennifer, who does a great job. And so you're there eating Kobe burgers, drinking some nice micro brews and some nice red wine. And what was that like, just rubbing shoulders with those people? These are people you've read about, I'm sure.
Yeah, and I think what also was interesting was basically all the people that were there knew each other. So it was not a networking event in the sense that people were all new to each other, but everybody had a relationship to each other, and I met with some of the angels before also, and it was so it's a very friendly atmosphere, and where we could actually have an open conversation about, like, for example, Tiger Tag, and get honest feedback and some very good advice. And there were some great people that came and said, this is not something I would invest in, but hey, I have a great intro to this guy that you definitely need to talk to. Or some other would say, yeah, this is very interesting, it's up our alley, and so on. So
what do you expect to happen from this point forward? What impact do you think it will have?
So I think one is that it gave us a great deal of feedback about where we want to focus, or where we should focus in executing this, as we are very, very early stage for our company. So there was a lot of feedback. And secondly, in following up on some of the conversations with the angels that expressed interest, and really being able to dedicate much more time in what we're all about and how we're going to execute, and what the money is being used for and whatnot, and so on. So that's what I see, like, the next couple of weeks is actually very hands-on, and going into the finer details.
And so you're looking to raise a couple of $100,000, something to that effect?
Yeah, at this stage, right? We have developed, our development's done, basically, and now we want to execute in the market, and that's where we will.
Great. So now I have Tiger Tag up on my screen. People who are at home can go to tigertag.com, TIGERTAGE.com. And you can go to Twitter, Tiger Tag.
Yes.
And so now give us the old elevator pitch. What is Tiger Tag?
So it's basically very simple, in the sense that I'm not sure how many in the audience have already tried or have lost a phone, a PC, or any type of other valuable. But basically, the fact is, in the US alone, there's more than 12 million mobile phones getting lost every year. There's more than 2 million laptops, and there's 1 million digital cameras, and many other valuables.
Yeah.
And the whole circumstance is that we all have valuables, and they are orphans. They are all orphans until we actually assign an ownership to it. And until now, there's really not been a system to assign an ownership. Maybe a paid-for service, yes. There are already existing lost and found paid-for services. That's not the way we're going about it. What we are establishing is the world's first free global lost and found network.
Right.
It's a network of Good Samaritans.
Right.
It's a network that connects finders with owners. And we harness the power of goodwill.
So how does this work?
Basically, like this.
Mechanically, how does it work?
Mechanically, very, very simple, right? You get these tags.
So these are the tags.
A sheet of tags.
A sheet of tags. These are like property tags, like inventory tags at a company.
Exactly, and there's 10 tags on each sheet.
10 tags on each
right?
sheet.
And when you get them from our website, you can get up to 5 if you want.
Okay.
And basically what you do is then go on our website,
right?
And you register once, you sign in, and then you can start activating any type of device you have. And you can put it, either you can put the tag on itself, or if you want, where, for example, with the new Google Nexus 1, where Google offers free engraving.
You engraved it.
You just engrave the tag ID. You create that tag ID you get. It's unique. It's anonymous.
Ah, interesting.
And then basically...
And it says on the tag what?
Exactly. It says a unique ID, and then return for reward. Go to tigertag.com.
Right. So if somebody finds this phone, go to TigerTag, type this code in, then what happens mechanically?
So basically the finder will basically enter that tag, and he will then get a point up saying, actually, this is the iPhone you found. Is that correct? Yes. Enter the name, enter email for the finder, and the owner will get an email from TigerTag saying, there's a finder for this. Do you yourself want to get in contact with the finder, or do you want FedEx to bring it to you? Right? Often it will be, you know, your local bar, or in the restaurant you've been to, or maybe the taxi you've just ridden with.
How much is the reward they get?
And reward is actually split in two. One is where you yourself as the owner can set a reward, a finder's fee. But also what we are then also throwing into the basket is a coupon for a purchase off of Amazon, for example, where you get discounts. We, of course, cannot offer cash, but that's what we can
offer. As a good, if you offered cash, people go steal things and with Tiger tags on them. So I find this phone, I put it on my BlackBerry, type in the tag, it says, there's a reward for this. I say, great, I put in my email. It goes to, or Tyler finds it, the email comes to me saying, hey, somebody found your phone. I say, great. tell them to email me. Boom,
Yes.
we get in touch with the other. Or I say FedEx is going to come to pick it up,
Yes.
and then you're going to get a free gift card, or you're going to get PayPal or something.
Exactly. Right.
And
Exactly.
so, do people return phones? And if
Yeah,
I
so-
lost my lightsaber, would they return?
So
it?
the fact is that actually you have, with the Tiger Tag, you have 75% chance of getting your device back.
right,
and you
depending on where you live or where you are.
There might be some slight differences
Yeah.
in percentage, but the fact is that people are actually good and they want to do good.
Yeah.
And we did a survey here in the US, and 97% of people said that of course they would return an item if they found it. And when I ask anyone that I speak about this, because it's everybody can relate to this issue, right? It's always, if I ask, do you think if you lost your phone in a taxi, would you get it back? And often someone would say, no, probably I wouldn't get it back, right? Somebody would just keep it, whatever. But then if I turn around, if you found a phone, would you return it? And you would most likely said yes, right? And so would the taxi driver. There was just a story, I think, 2 days ago with a taxi driver in New York who drove 60 miles to return a wallet with $2,000 to...
Wow.
So people just want to do good. And
I agree.
That's what we are all about. It's harnessing the power of goodwill.
Awesome. And so the way you make money is?
So right now it's a free service, right? And you can get these tags off our website. But of course, as we grow, what we want to do is offer various value-added services, such as a backup for your mobile phone, backup for your PC, or maybe insurance product on the side. And then also, where we have actually already now some great interest, is different partners, like device manufacturers or retailers or loyalty programs that actually want to offer this as a co-branded service together with us, where they then distribute this out to their clients.
It's a great idea. I loved it from the beginning. I think it's the type of thing that could catch on. I think this is something that would work really well in Japan.
Oh yeah.
And I think it's got international potential. I think the co-branding of the stickers with a brand, BlackBerry or Circuit City or anybody like that. Circuit City's gone, isn't it?
Yep.
So not Circuit City. But we get the idea. Sony or Best Buy or whatever. These kind of things. It's going to work. I think you're onto something great. I wish you the best of luck with it. And I think the Angels there were interested. And so I think that you got a good chance. We'll stay in touch. You have my email, and we'll keep talking.
Yeah.
Thank you for doing it. And,
Thank you for
keep us posted. You're feel free to write a blog post about what the Open Angel Forum was like.
Yes.
This would be very helpful to me. We'll retweet it because me talking about, hey, it was a great event, and I am very happy with the result. More people came than I thought it would, and the company's really crushed it. Even beyond me talking about it, if the people who actually experienced it talk about it, that's going to be even better.
Yeah, but I think very much the setup you've done for the Open Angel Forum really serves as inspiration for other initiatives similar to this.
Sure.
Basically copy and paste this in Europe, for example.
Yeah, we're going to have London. We already have our London
Yes.
one, and so I guess you're from Denmark. So if we want to do Open Angel Forum in Denmark, I have a couple of friends over there.
Yes.
And maybe I'll talk to Thomas. You know my friend Thomas?
No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Thomas.
Yep.
But anyway, it's a
Reboot?
pretty from Reboot. Reboot.com.
Oh yes,
Reboot
yes,
the conference.
yes.
So
Mugdale then, Thomas Mugdale, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Exactly. Then I know him.
old friend. I've been to Denmark twice, and we had the brown bread sandwiches at
Warbird?
Yeah.
what's the name of the restaurant? With the brown bread sandwiches, the famous
Hey,
place.
Copenhagen's big. There's many
No,
restaurants.
it's the most famous restaurant in Copenhagen where they have the brown bread sandwiches that are open, where they're beautifully designed. What's it called?
Yeah.
Now you
Warbird,
challenge me.
it's called.
Schmorbor?
Yeah.
I can't get
The
those.
brown, the
O's,
brown
so-
bread sandwiches that are
Yeah,
open.
yeah, exactly.
Incredible.
Yeah, exactly.
Tune on it. Everything.
Well.
Okay, congratulations, and wish you best of luck, and let's stay in touch.
Thanks.
Awesome. What did you think of Tiger Tag? They did a good job?
They presenting last night did a really good job. The part that I liked, my favorite part last night was the Q&A part.
Right.
Because who knows how engaged the Angels are going to be in this, if it's a good idea.
they were
or not.
engaged.
Oh my God. Just incredible value, not only for the presenters, but even like somebody like Chris Sacca last night was like, wow, a lot of great conversations last night.
Yeah.
I think that's a real testament to, I think those guys get excited when they get all together and get to brainstorm on.
They did not want to leave.
Right. And then we got emails today, like you could have had one or two more.
Yeah,
Like,
somebody said you could have done one, two more.
Yeah.
And, we can't do this program, This Week in Startups, and certainly can't do a bonus episode like this without the support of the sponsors. I really want to just take a moment and thank Bing. Bing, Bing, Bing. They're doing great, innovative stuff in search. Go check it out. Go do a video search for Open Angel Forum. Go do a picture search. Go do a product search. Check out their product search. They also do the Faircaster, where you can sort of take a look at fares. And I have somebody who's coming to LA who said the Bing thing told them the fares would be cheaper to wait before buying tickets, all this kind of stuff, and it actually worked. So they're really doing innovative stuff. Bing is like a startup inside of Microsoft, and they're running it as such. And we're good friends with them here at Mahalo. They send some good traffic to Mahalo how-to articles. And really great to have them as a sponsor on This Week. In startups, especially a company that's been around so long, supporting other entrepreneurs. And DNA Mail, everybody loves DNA Mail. They do hosted and managed Microsoft Exchange and Google App Email. And this is like one of the few people that Google actually lets outsource Google Apps to. And they have a 99.9% uptime guarantee. If you're doing a startup company, you don't want to waste time having an IT department. WebSpy. This is the total log analysis solution. Lets you log all activities so you can see things. But you can't block. They're not sensors. They just want to educate you as to what's going on in your network. It's important for compliance. It's important also for people to just know what's going on and what they're doing. Analyze all the traffic levels, patterns, errors, and more. WebSpy is great. And PowerVPS. This is a sister company to DNA Mail, and they provide fully managed virtual private server hosting, great customer service at an amazing price, starting as low as $59 a month. Go ahead and try it. You cannot go wrong. Twist viewers get 25% off for the life of their plan. I would seriously, if you're going to have a server somewhere, go do this because you have 25% off for your life. And use the code TWIST this week in startups. Go ahead and thank the sponsors, Bing, Ustream, DNA Mail, WebSpy, and PowerVPS. Ustream, of course, is where we host the show. Everybody loves Ustream. Ustream is getting better and better. Always the quality of the video. It seems like every maybe 2, 3, 4 weeks, the quality gets better. I don't know if it's their algorithm getting better or their bandwidth or whatever it is. The technology and the streaming is going incredibly well. And to have 250 people watching the show live is like having a live studio audience. I mean, it's only 1/100th of the people who eventually see the show, but it is really great to have that available. So thank you to them. Our next guest, Arun Gupta. Welcome to the program.
Thanks for having me.
You are the co-founder of WakeMate.
Yep.
You came and presented at the Open Angel Forum last night. What did you think of the event?
Amazing.
Yeah?
I mean, I was following the whole thing where you wrote the initial post about how it's ridiculous that entrepreneurs who are pitching angels for money have to pay to pitch them to get their money. And I thought it was a great idea that you were doing this, and really just lucky to be a part of it.
Great that you were following it from the beginning. You're a Y Combinator company.
Yep.
So Hacker News, you participated in that?
Yeah, the discussion.
So I always participate in the Hacker News discussion, and it's pretty vibrant.
Yeah, definitely.
And you got a lot of coverage there. The whole
that's where I heard about it.
Yeah, and so you heard about it there. That's great. That always inspires me to actually participate there because it can be a little brutal. People get a little personal in those comments.
They do.
But,
I mean, I think everybody was really championing what you were doing, though.
That was one of the few cases in Hacker News where I was being championed.
Yeah.
No, I mean, listen, we mix it up so people can differ in opinion, but nobody would differ that startup companies and angel investors should be working together and supporting each other, not charging and this stuff.
Yeah,
So,
definitely.
what was your expectation of last night, and how did it live up to that or not?
So we came in and we were excited to meet a bunch of great angels. We said Chris Sacca was there, and a bunch of other people. And I mean, we were just excited to get in front of them. And if they were interested, great. And if not, just get some great feedback. And a lot of people were interested. They said this is a great thing. I mean, we're up front. We were saying this is how much we're raising. This is how much we've had so far. And we're looking to close out the round. People were like, yeah, I'm interested in participating. Or I know this guy who's interested in the space. And really, just as an entrepreneur, really your job is to get in front of as many people as possible.
Right.
Right. So
it was efficient in that way.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
And you guys stayed late. I noticed you guys were
Yeah,
the last
we
to
did.
leave. You were
We
hanging
actually,
out with all the different investors.
we
You got
met,
a lot of FaceTime.
We met the founder of Zio there,
Right.
which was great for us.
Yeah, competitor.
Yeah.
And you had mentioned them in the presentation. The guy's like, oh, by the way, I founded that company, and
Yeah, so
I'm
that was
investing in
pretty,
these other companies. And so do you have a follow-up with that person, or you have their...
We kept it short. I mean,
Okay.
it's we're pretty competitive with them.
Oh, okay.
So, but it was great to talk to him and get his perspective on what we were doing. He was really honest, great guy, Jeff Stiebel.
Yeah, that was fantastic. So tell me and tell the audience, what is WakeMate?
So WakeMate is a Bluetooth cell phone accessory.
You can just talk to me. And
All right.
You don't have to look at the camera. I do that sometimes just for effect as the
Gotcha.
host. But you know, like you ever see Deborah Letterman? He sometimes looks at
Yeah.
the camera. But you can just talk to me.
So it's a Bluetooth cell phone accessory, and really the goal of the product is to help you sleep better in 2 ways. The first is it wakes you up at the right time in the morning within a 20-minute window, so you feel really refreshed and energized, ready to start your day. And the second is we do a whole host of analysis on your sleeping patterns over the course of the night. And from there, we let you improve the quality of your sleep so you can sustain that good feeling from the morning throughout the entire day. So really, we help you sleep less but feel better.
And here it is. It's $50, and you can pre-order it for $5 now. And how many pre-orders have you had?
Quite a few, actually. We didn't expect to get that many, but it's on the order of a few thousand.
A few thousand pre-orders.
Yeah.
And so that was a nice chip for you to have last night when you can say, hey, we've got a couple of thousand pre-orders.
Definitely.
We're going to make money doing this. And so you're going to raise a little bit of money to actually produce this first product. What is the big vision for the company?
So the company really is not a device company. It's not a hardware company. It's a data play. So we really want to be the Google Analytics for your personal data. So starting with sleep, moving into fitness, moving into diet, nutrition, stuff like that, we really want to open up our platform as well and allow people who want to develop applications for our wireless sensor. So since we have this wireless sensor that interacts with your mobile phone, we essentially make your smartphone a gateway for all your personal data that we can collect. So we're going to open up our API, allow people to develop applications for our platform, and really try to grow the company that way.
So I have the Weaving scale.
Right.
Been using it for a couple of days.
Great product.
I am putting my weight up at Jason's_scale. Leo Laporte is doing it as well. People are into it. It seems like there's a whole movement with Fitbit, which was at TechCrunch 2 years ago, to actually monitor all these things. This is a sort of a big opportunity. You're in a pretty smart space. Why did you start with something obscure like sleep as opposed to something obvious like working out pedometers and also weight?
Definitely, great question. The fitness space right now is really crowded. I mean, you have the Fitbit, you have the Nike Plus, you have the Body Bug. We really thought sleep was a great pain point that people hadn't really attacked. A lot of people hadn't attacked yet. So we thought, I mean, as you can see with the amount of pre-orders that we've gotten great traction. People are really resonating. People want to wake up in the morning feeling better. And then starting with sleep, we think we can really provide a lot of added value to people's sleeping patterns and people's sleep lives. So we think that starting with sleep, doing that right, and then from there moving into fitness is the way to go, rather than the other way around. It's easier to gain traction, I think, in the sleep market than it is to gain traction in the fitness market.
And so I wear this device. It's on my wrist. As I move around when I'm sleeping, you're recording that. You're developing a sort of framework for how I'm sleeping, and you give me a sleep score.
Yep.
So I get to look at a dashboard later and understand how I'm sleeping. Also, you mentioned it wakes you up. It vibrates.
Actually, it uses the phone's alarm.
Oh, it uses the phone's alarm.
Right.
So it's hooked up to my iPhone. The phone's alarm goes off. And it wakes me up at the peak point during that sleep cycle, because you go through many sleep cycles when you're asleep.
Exactly.
And this is how good your pitch was, as I can do it.
Yeah, you're very well versed.
And there are different moments during one of those sleep cycles where you can wake up and be less groggy, and it's the best time to wake up because you're in the lightest mode of sleep. How effective is it? Does it actually make a discernible difference that the rest of your day or the next hour is easier to get up?
Definitely. So the scientific term for it is actually sleep inertia, the grogginess that you experience, and it can affect people for up to 3 hours after they wake up. Actually,
Tyler,
yeah,
he's still not awake. We're in the middle of show 2.
Some people are like, don't talk to me until I have my morning coffee, stuff like that. But really, it's a familiar feeling. So sometimes you wake up, and it doesn't really matter how much you've slept, but you feel great.
Yeah.
And sometimes you wake up and you
that's
feel
the
like,
reason?
Yeah, and sometimes you wake up, you feel like you just went to bed. And it really has to do with the stage of sleep that you wake up in.
So if I'm rustling and I wake up at that point when I'm in light sleep, good.
Yeah.
If I'm in deep sleep and I wake up because of the alarm, bad.
Exactly.
So waking up naturally is
good.
better.
Yeah.
But this wakes you up naturally, optimally.
Exactly, yeah. So we're kind of hacking your sleep patterns, finding that right point.
Hacking the sleep patterns, great. Now, how can your product help me lose 10 pounds? I love your product. I love what you're doing. I'm very excited about it, and I want to keep in touch with you guys. I want to hear what goes on with all these angel investors. A lot of people told me you were one of their favorites last night, or if not the favorite.
Thank you.
A lot of great feedback, and do feel free to write a blog post about the experience so that other members of Y Combinator can see it. And we're going to bring it to Boston. So when we come, you're still in Boston, right? Or are you in the Valley now?
No, we're in San Francisco.
You left from there. And you basically are a Yale dropout, is that right?
Yeah, that's right. I left after my junior year.
You left after your junior year. So you basically wasted 2 years you didn't need to be there.
Yeah.
What is the phone call like with your parents when you tell them you're dropping out?
I mean,
are you Indian or?
Yeah.
So
my
you're
parents
Indian.
are.
So your
I was
parents
born
want to
here.
kill you.
Yeah.
So bring us to that exact moment. Where were you? Mom and dad you did it in person, right?
No, I did it over the phone.
You did it over the phone.
Yeah.
So you're in your dorm room or something?
Yeah.
So you're in your dorm room and you call your mom or your dad?
Yeah, I call my dad.
You call your dad because
Yeah.
he's not going to kill you.
Yeah.
Your mom is going to kill you.
I gotta make sure. I gotta dip their toes in the water, so to speak.
So you say what?
So I say, "Hey, mom and dad, I have this crazy idea. You know that alarm clock thing I've been working on? Maybe I'll do that full time instead of school."
And
they
what?
said,
Silence?
Yeah, silence. Like I was like, I didn't know what to expect, and they were just like, "Are you sure?" Like they were so unsure about the whole thing, like not excited about it. But really, I think what convinced them the most was that the job market at the time, last year, terrible. And I was
so
like,
they're thinking it's a disaster anyway.
exactly.
But this has got to be heartbreaking for your mom. That must have been the proudest day of her life when you got into Yale.
Yeah,
The Ivy League, and you throw it away. Your mom must be devastated.
She wasn't happy. I think now we've had some mild success. I mean, I told her we were invited to Jason Calacanis' Open Angel Forum. She was a lot
Pretty happy.
happier.
Yeah, Yale Open Angel Forum.
Exactly.
I have a feeling you're being very gracious. But to your mom, you can play this tape. Bill Gates didn't go to college. He dropped out. Steve Jobs, all these guys. It's no big deal. He's so smart. Yale is not going to be able to contain him. In the worst case scenario, if he gets bored with being an entrepreneur, he'll go back to Yale and finish. If he can get in and do 2 or 3 years of Yale, he can finish it. He'll bring it home. But this is going to be a great entrepreneur. If he can do this when he's 21 years old,
Yep.
if he can get into Y Combinator and get this much traction, even if this company fails, he's going to have 10 more that are going to do excellent. You did a great job raising him. This is no reflection on you guys.
No, it is a reflection. It's a positive
It's not a bad reflection on you that he quit school. He didn't quit school. He took on another opportunity that was better, and he can always go back there if he wants to. Arun, I wish you great success.
Thank you so
I am
much.
thrilled for you, and keep us up to date on what's going on.
I will.
We'll talk soon.
Great.
Good job. Okay. That's the point when you get up. All right. You can stay here forever. You don't have to go home, but you can't stay here. What did you think of WakeMade?
That was one of the funner moments of the evening when the angel in the audience, after they had finished their pitch,
very graciously
on
said,
the competitive landscape slide, specifically names, this company.
Yep.
And how they're going to take their market share. And the gentleman in the audience says, just...
By the way, that's my company.
I founded that company.
Pretty funny. Great to hear these stories. Our next guest I know from the TechCrunch 50 conference. Some of you guys know him. Jason, is it Keisel or Kessel?
It's Kiesel.
It's Kiesel.
Like diesel.
Kiesel like diesel. Yeah. Jason Kiesel is here, the co-founder of City Sourced.
Yeah.
And so now this is 2 of my events that you've been at.
Yeah.
Always loved your company, and you're a great entrepreneur. So you were at TechCrunch 50. City Sourced got a lot of attention. You launched it in December with your first client. You guys are on the road raising money right now.
Yeah.
In the thick of it. You applied to the Open Angel Forum. You got accepted. We met
Thank you
a
for
week
that.
ago. Well, don't thank me. Thank Tyler again. And Tyler helped with the selection process. In truth, Tyler did the bulk of the work with me just polishing it off. What was your expectation going into last night?
Basically, my expectation was to get in front of some angels here in the local tech scene. LA tech scene. So, my reach only goes so far. My partner Kurt's reach only goes so far. So any FaceTime you can get with somebody totally helps.
Yeah.
And that was my expectation, was to at least get that face to face.
Couple of local angels.
Couple, handshakes. Get that first meet and say, kind of spark that interest. And that's.
So you get there last night. You pull up. What's it like? And how did it live up to that expectation of meeting a couple of local angels?
Oh, it was everything and more. First of all, when you pull up, Matt Coffin's home is incredible. So
nice place.
Gives you a nice little
incentive to work hard.
to put in those burn the midnight oil, so to speak. But I thought the process was great. You came in, you kind of told us what was going to happen. Gave us a little, powwow. You did the same to the Angels, and then we got together, had a good dinner. The whole experience was just kind of top notch. So,
very good. So tell us, what is the progress that City Source has made since you did that great demo? Because when you did that demo, I mean, let's be honest, it was duct tape. I mean, you guys were racing to get it done. You got it done. You had a very successful presentation there. People really loved what you did. What is the what has been the actual Now you're out of the TechCrunch 50 honeymoon.
Pretty much.
And now, boom, it's reality. We got to actually get a product delivered, and we've got to actually get clients. I know you're working with one of the districts in
San Jose.
How has that gone?
Oh, it's gone incredibly well. Actually, at TechCrunch, the iPhone app worked. The back-end console in which the cities manage those requests was not done. So that was a bit of the smoke and mirrors that we put up, kind of.
Like every entrepreneur does.
Exactly. You got to do what you got to do. So we worked with San Jose in developing the console. We had a little bit of trouble getting Apple to approve the product. It took them a little longer. A lot of people apparently have had.
A lot of people have been there.
Mark from Mahalo said it took 3 weeks to get your guys' app approved.
Yeah,
So it takes a while, and we were expecting 7 to 10 days, which was what someone else had told me, and so kind of was a bit misled in the expectation there. But so we dialed in our product. We wanted to get that console, pretty much working exactly how our customer wants it.
And this is the console where I can see after you shoot the pothole or the graffiti or the broken street lamp, I can actually, as the person working in the city department, see these are all the problems, check them off, route them, delete them, whatever, and then communicate back to the person who has submitted the pothole and say, hey, we got it, or hey, we got it, we fixed it.
Right.
Hopefully.
Yes. And that's basically it. It's in a nutshell, it's a issue tracking system, much like when you're doing software development, you have bug tracking. That's what this is. They can mark the statuses.
Help desk.
Yeah, exactly.
It feels like a help desk.
And they can add comments in, and the user will see those comments as they log into their phone and view the detail. So
what was the feedback like from the Angels? They heard the pitch. Everybody loves the idea when they hear it because everybody wants the product. You got a bunch of questions. People were really pounding on you. I mean, this was an intelligent audience. What was it like to take that sort of firepower?
Well, it threw me off my game, to be quite honest.
Yeah.
I was up there. I was given my deck pitch, and
Fast and Furious.
Somebody put in a question, and I wasn't through my deck yet, and I basically got sidetracked answering questions, and I didn't even get to finish my deck. So
who cares about the deck? If people want to engage, if the person who's going to invest doesn't want to see the deck and they just want to ask questions, go with it.
Yeah, bring it on.
And you did. You did it well.
So, well, thank you.
Yeah.
That kind of threw me off a bit. I was kind of expecting more of a structured format, but that didn't happen. So I went with the flow, and I did the best I could, and we got 3 or 4 guys that came up and expressed interest, so we're following up with them. We've already sent out emails, and
awesome.
Yeah. So and we're actually a third of the way through our round. So we've out of the money we're raising, we've done about a third. So
great. So now maybe this gets the second third, and then maybe the first third and the second third can work together to get the last third.
Exactly.
Anything you change about the event? Anything you didn't like, or anything you think would make it better? Curious?
No, I mean I enjoyed it pretty much as it was.
Maybe interesting way to ask it would be what advice would you give to people who participate in future events?
Oh, the advice I'd give to somebody that's going to be doing it next would be to do your homework. Make sure you have your when you're doing your deck pitch, keep it short, keep it sweet, keep it simple. 5 slides at the most. Kind of hit those basic business points. Competitive landscape, market, business model, etc. Spend your time doing the Q&A because that's where you engage those the Angels, and that's where
if you don't, they're going to be just checking their BlackBerry.
Exactly, they're going to be tweeting out and all that stuff. So and to that point, I would also say that it's best to really go through and try to punch holes in your business plan because that's what they're going to do.
Yeah, you want to
try to have an answer for every possible conceivable question that they could that they could ask you. So really dive deep on that. So
yeah, it's almost hard to anticipate the level of intelligence in the questions they're going to ask you because
this was a pretty sophisticated group.
Yeah, totally.
Well, we wish you continued success. It's been
Thank
great
you.
watching you guys over the 5 months or so since TechCrunch 50, and I think you guys are going to crush it.
We are. We've already got a second customer, by the way. So,
oh, great.
Yes.
Who's the second customer?
UC Davis.
Ah, yes. So now you've got a university using it for on-campus nonsense.
Yes. Well, on-campus maintenance is sprinkling.
Well, that's what I mean by nonsense. Shenanigans. Things are breaking.
I thought you meant more like, guys token up or something.
Yeah, no, yeah. But, I mean, I don't think that's the public nuisance they're thinking about.
No.
But, yeah.
But yeah,
I mean,
we're really excited. The sponsor, the champion of our product is actually head of the National Association of like facilities management directors. in
Great.
there.
So that's an in for you.
He's a great charter customer for us.
Awesome. Awesome.
It almost seems like, you remember how Web 1.0, people would make references to brick and mortar things. They would say, we are the online version of
blank
Walmart, or they were referencing real world
we're
stuff.
Toys R Us online, eChoice.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
It seems kind of strange to flip it back the other way around now, but it seems like this is the get satisfaction of real world stuff.
Yeah.
It's like,
No, of course. There's a whole meetup.com is
Right.
the, Google Groups, the
Right,
real
right,
world
right.
Google Groups.
right.
Yeah. I mean, it is a definitive trend that's going on is how to get the internet out to the real world, the augmented reality, reality plus equals what. And the iPhone obviously being a big driver of it, and also obviously the Android phone. So Android application coming up, or
Yes, both Android and BlackBerry.
Oh,
so
really?
Why
why BlackBerry? It seems such a niche.
A lot of city workers at BlackBerries.
Oh, I see. So they got you got to have the
Got to cater to our key
got to know
market
who's
segment.
signing
Yeah.
off on the purchase order.
Exactly.
Right. So you'll have
Exactly.
like 8 people in the yeah. They'll have 8 people using the 99.
Well, they're the ones demoing the product, so
Yeah.
they're like, "Is it BlackBerry? No. Oh, well, I can't really demo it, so
Yeah.
we need to have that."
A little bit of a problem. Okay, well, congratulations.
Thank you again.
Great success. Do a blog post on it or something.
For sure.
If you want to, and well done.
Thank you very much.
Okay. We'll
Take
talk to you
care.
soon. I think all in all, it went very well.
Yeah.
We had a good group.
Yep.
It wasn't perfect, but
Right.
we'll do, let's see, we'll do Colorado in February, and then in March we will do San Francisco. And in April we'll do New York and the Valley, and maybe after that, May we'll do London and whatever. And I'm sure you're hoping we do Tokyo.
I was just, you reading my mind.
We haven't been in a while. It is about time, isn't it? When was we there? September?
April's the time to go.
Maybe we have to go do it in April. Well, one of our Tokyo contacts, please get in touch, and we need some angel investors in Tokyo. But I mean, over there, it's a very small angel investor community.
It's not as small as necessarily like some U.S. cities.
We're going to need to find the definitive angels over there. And
Yeah,
figure out
they're
how
there.
to do business there.
They're there.
I don't know anything about how business operates there.
Plenty of startups over there.
Yeah, but they get funded weird.
It is a slightly different model.
We would
but-
be fighting against 2 things there. We'd be fighting against, getting an event like this started, which is hard enough. But, well, it's not that hard. But it would be all the work of getting the event started. But then there is the way they do investing over there where it's like you're taking a loan almost, and the terms are pretty rough. We'd have to be working on the basic terms that people get. Because they have to make personal guarantees and stuff like that. It's all sort of...
Yeah, you get the geopolitics, which is actually really interesting, relevant to the last show we did with Brad Feld here, where, what country caters to doing entrepreneur activities.
Well, when we first announced this, we had London immediately.
Right.
So which will be the second city that steps up? Will it be Tokyo? Will it be Seoul? Will it be Sydney? We're open to it. So
Right. Oh,
Sydney's-
definitely
I mean,
could be Sydney.
Sydney's
we
definitely
want to
got
get
it.
back. We can take another photo on that bridge.
Absolutely, we'll take another photo on the bridge. Hello, we're on the bridge. So, great job, by the way. You did a really good job. I mean, truth be told, you did about 80% of the work of this, and I did the hosting, but really well done. Very proud of you.
Yeah, it was very fulfilling to see. I mean,
It is very fulfilling, I have to say.
It really is.
We haven't made a business out of this,
Right.
but gosh, it really feels good to do.
Yeah. From
Yeah.
from both sides.
Both sides.
It was
Angels
win,
are
win,
loving
win.
us.
Yeah.
I mean, we sold 3 tickets to the event, one of which I returned the guy's money.
Yeah.
Because he wasn't ready to attend the event.
I think that was a really interesting moment, and
Right.
it really goes to show that this really isn't about the money,
It is not.
because you're willing to. Somebody had paid for a ticket as
Somebody
a
paid
service provider,
$1,500
and you're like, you know what? I don't think you're a perfect fit for this.
Right, because they complained a bunch.
Whatever.
Yeah.
For whatever reason,
Yeah.
you don't seem like the caliber or profile of person we want
Yeah,
at
we
this
don't
event.
want somebody there that we're putting them out to come,
Right.
and that they have conditions under which they're going to buy the ticket or whatever.
Right.
The tickets were put there just as a way to possibly underwrite the event.
Right.
I was going to underwrite it personally.
Did not want to jeopardize,
that's
all
exactly
the
what I thought.
goodwill that was going in there.
One person can ruin a party.
Right.
That's all it takes. You ever go to a party or a dinner party, and then one person drinks too much at the dinner party, and they start telling inappropriate jokes, and then the 2 or 3 people who are the cool people at the party are like, you know what, let's go sit in the backyard. Then that person comes out to the backyard, and they're still telling stupid jokes, and then they think, you know what, let's say we're out.
Right.
And the party's over.
Right.
One bad person kills the party.
Yeah.
You can't have them there.
Right.
So
not worth the 1,500, whatever.
Yeah, so I told the guy to take his 15. I didn't even tell him. I just said, your 1,500 has been returned. It's not the right event for you. The other 2 people were 2 law firms. They each paid $1,500 to bring one person to the event, which seems like an extraordinary amount of money. But the truth be told, for a law firm, if they get one client out of it in the next 3 years, you know, that client's going to be worth $50,000, $30,000, or $100,000. It's no big deal.
Yeah.
Although it does seem like a lot of money to pay for a couple of hours.
I think they would say it was money very well spent.
The event probably cost $1,000 to put on. We had to have a valet. We had to have Mahalo chef come, and we had to pay for the burgers and that kind of stuff, beers and wine. So $2,000 profit for the event, which, considering the amount of time we put into it, would not even come close to paying for that. But if we do this in the other cities,
But the goodwill way more than
more. And so we don't have a business model yet, but a couple of ideas have emerged for a business model. And
you get that many smart people together, a business model.
A couple of possible
emerge,
business models.
Right?
Number one, after we have the initial group of 15 angels in a city, 20 angels in the city, we don't want to have any more because it gets too big. Every angel after that point, $5,000 to join the group.
I have no doubt that. I mean, you saw the number of people that want to apply to the first one.
Yeah, so that's what I think we'll do. It'd be for an angel to join, it would be $5,000 a year to come to 4 events, and that's just after we have 20 people on the roster. So that's one business model.
Yep.
So we still have our core group, but you want to be number 21, you got in too late, that's fine. The second possibility is a law firm taking a national sponsorship where they sponsor all the cities and they can bring one person to it, or a technology company. So we could have one technology company, one technology company, one law firm, one search company, like a headhunter, maybe one accounting firm, Ernst & Young type, and maybe one investment bank. If we did 5 of those at $50,000 each, that'd be $250,000. That'd be enough to hire 2 people full-time to work for the event and maybe get it going, where we have 2 people screening the deals, which is really where the work comes in. But it's kind of fun to screen the deals.
It's incredibly educational.
I feel like we're getting very smart by doing this.
Yeah.
So in some ways, other people would pay to sit there and have these great entrepreneurs, intelligent people pitch you, which is the experience we have at TechCrunch 50 after 3 years.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's kind of leveraging the success of TC50 and knowing what works in that environment.
You definitely know that you want to have somebody who fills out the form completely.
Yeah.
I mean, it's almost like that's the big lesson for me from TechCrunch 50. If you cannot fill out a good application, you're probably not going to do a good job getting on stage. If you cannot do a video that is quality, and turn on your video record and have decent light and know enough to say like, oh my God, the lighting, I look like I'm a deranged, murderer. When I do my video in my basement, I should do this outside or at a Starbucks or somewhere where there's bright lights and put a light on my face so I don't look like a criminal. Like if you're not smart enough to do that, you're probably not smart enough to pull off whatever it is you're pitching.
Right.
You got to be able to.
It shows the amount of care that you have. It
shows the amount of care. So I think that's a big tip for people is if you're going to do this kind of thing, details matter. Anything that's worth doing is worth doing well. Whether that's ironing a shirt, making the video, pouring a drink, anything that's worth doing well, anything that's worth doing is worth doing well. Do everything you do as an entrepreneur well. Whether it's pouring an iced tea, sending an email, do it well. There's no excuse. And I think you saw on those applications a lot of care. I was very impressed. In some ways, I feel bad for the other 15 companies that were not as good, but in the same league.
Yeah.
And we got a little bit of negative feedback on we picked people without regard for geographic region. It's the first time.
My thought on that is, as the other chapters fill out, that'll self-correct.
Absolutely. Yeah. We picked the best people, but it'll be a little bit more, regional after this. So thanks again, Tyler, for all the help on the event.
My pleasure.
Thanks to Matt Coffin for hosting the event. Thanks to all the angel investors who came, and of course, thanks to Bing, DNA Mail, WebSpy, PowerVPS, and Ustream. Just on an inside baseball note, we've had the honor and privilege of working the last 7-8 months with Alex Miller, a fine young gentleman who has worked very hard for me and for our organization. It was an honor to work with you. You're a pleasure, and we wish you great success in your journey in New York, my hometown. You have a permanent get-out-of-jail-free card with Uncle Jason. Anything you need, you call me immediately, and we'll look forward to working with you in the future. Congratulations to Alex on his job in New York, and we're going to miss you, buddy. We're done.
Spiked out, I could trip a referee. Tell by my attitude that I most definitely from.